How you doing there, Jakester?
Doing good. It's Friday.
There's something sticky. Why is the desk sticky, Todd? I don't know, Margot. Christmas vacation.
I was quite sure it was something spilled from the 4 to 6.
Yeah. And why is the floor wet, Todd? I don't know, Margot. This chair's about to fall apart. This chair's almost had it. You ever sit in a chair and feel like
Oh, yeah.
the pole underneath is about to go up your pooper?
For the 625 segment, you want 19 first, then 12?
That's a 10.
That is a 9.
No, it's a poorly written 10. I'm super tired. I see what you're saying, but that's a 10.
It's a 19, man. I got you. Agree?
I'm sorry?
It looks like a 19. I'm not disputing it looks like a 19.
It's a 19 right there.
Yeah, that's a 19.
That's all right. I'm just glad I asked beforehand.
I'm going to say something. This looks like it might have something to do with your sticky over there.
Wait, say again?
This might have something to do with the sticky.
That's been there. So, possibly, yeah, if they tap back into it.
It's got cultures growing in it.
That doesn't surprise me.
I have, for the first time in my life, I've picked up an allergy to something floating in the air, and it's killing me. I've never had allergies.
That's crazy. I didn't know you could develop allergies later. Like I thought if you didn't have it as a kid, you were good. I've grown out of a lot of my allergies. That's why.
I've never had allergies.
I used to get a lot of nosebleeds in the changing of season, but it became like cold and dry. It doesn't get dry here, so maybe that's it. That always came with a cough.
And see, now that's like mashing up with treasure. It's just going to be like a Bruno Mars medley in my head all morning long. That's all it's going to be. That's a good place to be. But
Yesterday, I had that David Allan Coe song in my head all day long.
I didn't know that was called the best country song ever, the perfect country song. I always thought it was called "You Never Call Me by My Name."
The best perfect country and western song.
Excuse me.
Well, because there's a difference between country music and country and western music.
What the hell's the difference?
Conway Twitty.
That's funny. I know all the words of the song. Everybody knows all the words of the song. Anybody's ever been to the Boston Street Pub in Covington at closing time and that's one example of a million bars around the country that are like that.
The uptown bars in the early '80s. If you didn't play that twice a night, they burned the building down.
Yeah.
Every fraternity exchange had that played at least once.
There's there's very few songs in this world where you can say 3 words and it triggers the same. It was all. That's it. 3 words, 7 letters.
I was drunk.
No, 10. 8 letters. Sorry.
I was drunk. The day my mama got out of prison.
But he's making fun of country music. That's why it's so funny. Or that's why it's so good. It's so self-aware.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it was all that I could do. What the hell are we leading with today?
Rick and Renee are in early.
I gotta tell you a little something about yourself. .606 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane. We are off and running on this Friday morning. Very, very busy Friday morning. We got a lot of ground to cover this morning. I'll give you the rundown in just a minute. But can I ask? I need everyone with me here. Everyone, just for 1 minute. I would like to go one full day. And tomorrow we can worry about tomorrow. I would like to go one full day without having I-10 shut down on the other side of the river. The last 2 days, it's been shutdowns of in excess of 6 hours. Yesterday, somebody died. The day before that, they had a 1:30 a.m. crash and had to wake up people who had been sitting on the interstate. They were sitting there for so long, had to wake them up. Yesterday, terrible, terrible crash. 18-wheelers in a commercial bus. 3 people hurt, one person dead. Let's start this Friday off. I know, Fridays, especially on the interstate, in Baton Rouge, infinitely worse than the rest of the days of the week. The bar has been set too high for us to get worse, so let's go the other route. Give us one full day without a wreck on I-10, specifically on the west side. We got a busy show for you today. Haggai Davis is going to be in for a cup of Tech Gumbo. It is our legislative session, but there are legislative sessions going on all around the country and everywhere, every year. And this is one of my favorite things. The people who are elected to represent us display on a very, very real level how much they don't understand technology. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about everything from holding social media companies liable for social media addiction to the Delete Act, which is a promise of another no-call list. And I have about as much faith in developing an effective no-call list as I do in getting a Baton Rouge loop. Haggai's in at quizzically looking at me. Haggai's in at 6:35 to talk about it. In our 7 o'clock hour, this is going to be fun. Well, I say it's going to be fun. It might be terrifying. Kurt Gray is a psychologist, associate professor over at University of North Carolina. He had a column out titled Understanding Putin's Victimhood Narrative, excuse me. To hear the Kremlin tell it, Russian forces are currently engaged in a noble struggle against fascists in Ukraine and bullying NATO aggressors, with the U.S. as the primary villain in their version of the tale. Oh, I want to unpack all of this. Take it away from Russia and re-inject it into our own society. Oh, there's a lot going on inside Putin's head, and I would like to understand as much of it as I can, because we can replicate it and see that it's happening right here as well. Not on the same level, but it's happening here as well. All right, that's at 7:35. We're also going to talk with State Representative Stephanie Hilferty in our 8 o'clock hour, getting ourselves an update on the legislative session. What's her take on the bridge? She's from New Orleans. Wonder if she's in favor of putting $500 million aside to be able to use later on. It's one thing we've been asking every legislator we're having on, and we're going to continue to. Also, Hunt Palmer is going to be I believe he'll be on the hotline at 8:40 this morning. First spring football practice was yesterday. Hunt was there, going to give us the breakdown, tell us exactly how good Pat Mashburn looked and the rest of the Tigers as well. It's a little inside joke about St. Paul's. Anyway, that is what we've got going on this morning. We are going to talk sports in just a little bit. What a night in the NCAA tournament last night. Ridiculous. We'll run you down the scores and set the table for the weekend in LSU sports as well. Before we hit our first break, though, this morning, I do want to make mention of this. Bishop Michael Duca going to join Pope Francis in praying an act of consecration to entrust Russia and Ukraine to the Immaculate Heart of St. Mary at St. Joseph Cathedral today. The solemnity of the today, which is the solemnity of the Annunciation of the Lord. Bishop Duca will lead the rosary at 10:45 a.m., making the consecration at 11 a.m., which means he makes pretty good time in that rosary. I average 18 to 20, Haggai. He's in at 15. All are invited to attend or participate via live stream. The Holy Father will consecrate the two war-torn countries to the Immaculate Heart of Mary at St. Peter's Basilica, his home turf. So that's going on later today. Let's take a quick break. When we come back from that break, we'll talk sports. Crazy night in the tournament last night. Think the first two rounds, you think the first weekend was where all the upsets are to be found? Not so fast, my friend. Oh, no, that's Lee Corso. He does football. We'll break it down next. Before we take that break, let me tell you about the folks over at Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. You can tell how bright and chipper I am that I got a good night's sleep last night. It's because of the Sealy Beauty Rest Black Label. Where did I find it? 4065 Florida Boulevard. That's the home of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. That's the bigger of their two footprints. The other one is the corner of Jefferson and Housatoo. Now, if you're in the southeastern portion of the parish, Jefferson and Housatoo get you done. 18181 Jefferson Highway if you want to plug it into your phone. It gets you done. They've got everything you could try out there. It's just there's a little more square footage at 4065 Florida Boulevard. They've also got all the deals under the sun at the corner of Jefferson and Housatoo. And either location gets you free delivery and a free pillow if you mention you heard about it right here. Mitch has got sales going on all the time. He's always rotating out deals on sales. You're going to go home with the best, most affordable deal on a mattress you're going to find. Not to mention, he's going to put you in the mattress that's just right for you. We're getting into the warmer months. Cooling gel is going to be more important. Maybe that's your jam. Maybe you like it pillow top. However, he's got you. 4065 Florida Boulevard, Jefferson and Housatoo. Go see my buddy Mitch Kimball over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet.
Duca skips every ninth bead.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's like trimming the verbiage. Blessed art thou amongst women and such.
The lightning bolt's coming.
Dude, it's supposed to be good weather today. I'm looking up at the forecast. Not a cloud in the sky. I'm going to get struck by lightning.
Yeah, my entire Final Four is gone. I got nobody left. I had Gonzaga winning it all.
I had Arizona winning it all and had them beating Gonzaga. Yeah. Right. Well, what the hell did I do? Yeah, no, I know. Wait, we had Brian. Well, Brian Kelly cuts were outside of the sports segment itself. Hey, I replaced that promo that's in the 60-second one. I used the soundbite where I told Paula Davis I want her to pant somebody in the schoolyard. Not your Paula Davis.
I know.
Can I leave it in for one of these?
Not this one. It's too tight a segment.
When we have a long segment. If I see it, I'll ask.
So we had Bill Cassidy on,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, I don't know if something's blocking in the U.S. Senate, we couldn't get him on a Teams meeting. I had Congressman Graves on a Teams meeting when we had him on last year.
That sounds like operator error on his end, probably.
He had a staff they couldn't get through either. And so they called, and I wound up playing an audio call into the microphone.
Oh, good Lord.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
I mean, it worked out. I mean, because I could go into Adobe Audition and kind of elevate some of the strangled portions. But it was really good. I mean, he didn't hold back.
He's amazing, though. Like
He did not.
We get so hell bent on it's all about one guy. Like it's all about Trump. And if forget the fact that he is more conservative than John. Okay.
He had
Okay.
numbers. I mean, 'cause we were just talking technology bills. I mean, he had real information, and it was great to have him on.
.616 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So if your bracket wasn't busted before, wow. Last night was remarkable in the NCAA tournament. Let's see. Final four teams. I don't know that I have anybody left. I mean, my championship game was slated to be Arizona versus Gonzaga. I also had Kentucky and Wisconsin. We're getting Wisconsin. Here we go. Last night. 4th seed Arkansas, 74. 1 seed Gonzaga, 68. Oopsies. 2 seed Villanova, a 63-55 winner over 11 seed Michigan. That played out the way it was supposed to. 2 seed Duke, a 78-73 winner over Texas Tech, 3 seed. That played out mathematically how it was supposed to, but Texas Tech was actually the favorite. It was a pick 'em heading into the game. There was more money on Texas Tech than there was on Duke, and then things rounded out. The night rounded out with 5 seed Houston topping Arizona, 72-60. Just brutality in the NCAA tournament last night. Rough going, very rough sledding, and we're not done, baby. 15 seed St. Peter's is going to take on 3 seed Purdue tonight. 4 seed Providence taking on 1 seed Kansas tonight. You got 8 seed North Carolina and 4 seed UCLA. This is the game that piques my interest the most because I'm all about North Carolina right now. They're so hot right now. They're like Hansel. And then Iowa State taking on Miami to round out the night. Meanwhile, LSU baseball is going to be on the road for a 3-game set. They are at Florida. As I understand it, Florida's pitcher tonight is a 6'7" left-hander who just throws 90-plus mile-an-hour BBs at you all night long. He's got like a strikeout-to-walk ratio of it's well beyond 10-1. It's crazy. Anyway, baseball tonight. Oh, nuts. I just screwed this up. Baseball, first pitch tonight, 6 p.m. over on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Chris Blair will be on the call. Pregame starts at 5:30. Baseball will play at 6 o'clock tonight, 5:30 tomorrow night, and then Sunday at 11 a.m. Softball, meanwhile, has a different sort of series this weekend. Softball is going to they'll be at Arkansas, but they're not playing a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're playing a Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So tomorrow night at 7:30 right here on Talk 107.3, Sunday at noon, and then Monday night at 6. All 3 games. Patrick Wright will be on the call right here on Talk 107.3 FM. All right. We've got updates on the assessment and evaluations coming from the tornado. We'll check in on those next. Right now, here's the Fox Business Report.
Who's the Florida pitcher tonight?
I can't. If you said his name, I'd know it. I don't know it off the top of my head. Starts with a B, maybe.
It was a multiple choice question.
Blake Purnell.
No,
Hunter Barco.
that's it.
44 strikeouts, 2 walks.
5-1 is a good strikeout to walk ratio. That would be 22-1. Guys are redonkulous.
So, a pitcher being 6'7" by itself is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, think about the mound is 60 feet 6 inches away, right, from home plate, right?
And raised up 6 inches.
Right. So when you are 6'7" and you're 6 inches above the ground, you're now 7'1", right? Okay. So you're 7'1" above the ground. You can, number one, shorten the distance from the mound to home plate with your stride, and number two, you have gravity working in your favor as well.
The pitcher's mound used to be 18 inches high back
Yeah.
in the day. And, I mean, it was almost unfair how much of a difference having that mound that high was. And so they flattened it down to only 6 inches, and because they wanted more offense in the game.
Was it just very down for the pitchers?
Oh yeah, back in the 70s, pitchers ruled the world.
When did they change the
Some late 70s, early 80s, and so baseball players are supposed to be short. I mean, that's just not supposed to be, but it just works out that way. I mean, 6 foot is a tall baseball player. So when you're 6'7", as a batter, you're used to seeing that ball coming from right here. But now all of a sudden that it's 6'7", the ball's coming from here. It's a different something you're not used to looking at, and
And it affects everything from velocity to rotation to movement.
Because you have, like you said, a bigger stride.
you throw in, because now instead of the ball being released 55 feet from you, and now it's being released 54 feet from you. Well, that 1 foot makes a hell of a difference.
You're swinging it at a ball that's flying at you 90 miles an hour.
Or 95. And
That's crazy.
that's what.
Think about the history of different sports and seeing like what used to be the normal thing.
But that's why Randy Johnson was so good. The big unit, Randy Johnson,
He killed a bird.
Yeah, he did.
Oh wait, was that when the bird flew?
Yeah, and he.
Yes.
Yeah, that bird must have been down impact.
Yes.
Oh, he dusted that bird. I mean,
He exploded a bird.
Didn't it explode in a ball of feathers?
oh yeah. I mean, he wasn't aiming for it. He was pitching, and the bird flew right in.
Oh, it was totally the bird's fault.
I mean,
Bird was probably drunk.
Baseball field or baseball stadium.
Bird didn't even have a ticket. Shouldn't have been there.
He pulled up Danny Rojas.
But Randy Johnson was left-handed. He was 6'7", 6'8", something like that.
6'7".
And so here you've got this guy who's left-handed and so much taller. He was dominant because of that same kind of thing.
Denny Rojas? Yes, I did.
Oh yeah, Eric.
I'm not even in YouTube yet.
Eric's on it. We're
10, 11, and 12.
Yes. 624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Going to get you to Cup of Tech Gumbo about 10 minutes from 12 minutes from right now. Haggai Davis in studio with us as he is every single Friday. In our news here at the bottom of the hour, you're going to hear a little bit more about the tornado that rolled through, just destroying a lot of St. Bernard Parish this week. National Weather Service has come back saying that it might have been a record breaker. The National Weather Service out of New Orleans forecaster Lauren Nash tells our news partners over at Louisiana Radio Network preliminary damage assessment indicates the twister was a very strong EF3.
EF4 starts at 166, so this is a high-end 3, and that was mostly rated on 2 or 3 houses and were pulled off of that foundation and moved, and also most of the walls were collapsed and destroyed on 2 of those houses.
Note the verbiage. Houses pulled off their foundation. not just knocked down, but pulled off their foundation. Not a raised home. Just boom. Yeah. By the way, the enhanced Fujita scale, EF scale, ranks twisters with winds of 136 to 168 miles per hour as an EF3. Nash says the Araby tornado had max winds at 160. The National Weather Service is tasked with going into tornado-ravaged locations to evaluate the strength, speed, width, and duration of each tornado.
Yesterday, we did go out and survey all of that damage. Ended up being an 11.5-mile track all the way back up into New Orleans east after it tracked through Araby.
Really amazing work when you think about what has to go into that. And at the end of the day, it's all estimation, right? I mean, there's a way to know what minimum wind speed can knock something down, but no way to know what maximum wind speed it used to get it done. Now, the report's preliminary. Nash says there's still satellite data and drone footage to be considered in their final report. However, she expects the basic data, the EF strength, winds at 160 aren't going to change much. Nash says it could be the strongest twister to hit the New Orleans area, but is not ready to confirm it.
The EF3 that went through New Orleans East in 2017 had a max wind speed of 150, so this one was slightly stronger than that.
But again, you can know what it takes to knock something down, but not how much was actually used to knock it down. The amount of damage, the monetary amount of the damage, is still being tallied and will be for some time. We've heard from Governor John Bell Edwards on this one already. As everything is set, if financial assistance, if those levels are met, I'd be hard-pressed. When you look at all four parishes combined, I'd be hard-pressed to believe that those won't be met. So the state legislature right now is looking at a bill that would make asking a vaccine status a crime. Let's talk about that in a second. First, I got to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. Doug and his team at Complete Collision Center pride themselves on continuing education. They pride themselves on proper training. They have the ICAR Gold Class certification, which I like to tell you about because this is one of those things that just shows you the level of commitment to knowing how to repair your vehicle safely. Go to CompleteCollision.com, CompleteCollision.com, read up on the ICAR Gold Class certification, the long and the short of it, the elevator pitch, if you will. They'll know the difference between repair and replace, and that's a pretty huge difference. They know how to find hidden damage. I could speak to this firsthand because I had gotten into an accident, took my car to Complete Collision. I was like, oh, just a little dent in the back. No. Once you got underneath and started really snooping around, there was a lot more to it. And I'm thankful that he found what he found. It's about getting your family back on the road safely. 768-9898 is the phone number, 768-9898, or check them out online at CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. So coming up at 7:15, we're going to do kind of a legislative news dump because there's so much going on in this session, and it's a non-fiscal session, which gives legislators the opportunity to just be creative. You're getting to a lot of non-fiscal bills. It's a non-fiscal session, so you get into a lot of non-fiscal bills. There is a bill that would make asking someone's vaccination status for entry into any building a crime. That bill has hit a snag. It hit a snag in committee yesterday. But the bill's still there. Representative Larry Bagley, this is reading from WBRZ, Representative Larry Bagley, a Republican representing Caddo, DeSoto, and Sabine parishes, voluntarily deferred HB 54 to tweak its language after a hearing before the House Administration on Criminal Justice Committee. Quote, I just think it's wrong for a government agency or a private person or anybody else to require me to put something into my body that I don't know what it is and don't have enough information about that. Bagley, who chairs the House Health and Welfare Committee, said, I never thought we'd get to that point. You know, I think Representative Bagley is going to kind of be hoisted by his own petard on this one. You're going to write a bill telling a business what they can and can't do when the whole impetus behind the bill is the freedom to not be told what you can and can't do? Think about that. It's like a freedom paradox. I respect my freedom so much that I'm going to restrict yours. Curious. We'll break that down next. We got to take a break for news, traffic, weather. On the backside of this break, it's time. It's time for a cup of Tech Gumbo next.
The stupid thing is, I saw that guy on the news last night.
Larry Bagley?
He's been vaccinated.
So, okay, this part I understand, though. I understand the difference between, hey, that vaccination sounds like a good idea to me. It makes sense to me. I want the vaccination. But I'm not going to force it on you. I get that take.
When he said on the news, they're wanting us to inject something in our body, and we don't know what it is.
Oh, yeah, okay, now I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. I don't know what that is. Give me more, give me more. Give me.
But yet, we force.
Yes, I just had Larry Bagley singing Britney Spears.
We get, kids have to have this stuff injected into us. All these vaccines that.
Those vaccines have been around forever.
Do you know what's in them?
No. Do you know what's in nacho cheese?
God, no.
Do you eat nachos?
No.
Okay, no.
Not at a stadium.
You.
I make my own.
I don't even know this guy. I
Bring
swear.
your own nachos to the field.
It's like a Ziploc bag.
That spackle that they serve in stadiums
Is glorious. Oh, it sticks to your ribs and everything else. My grandpa used to say, "Oh, it sticks to your ribs."
Yeah.
That's a phrase that just needs to die forever.
It did.
Eat some grits; they stick to your ribs.
That went away with the greatest generation.
Getting COVID increases the risk of heart problems.
No, don't get COVID.
What's happening?
I think giving COVID just kind of increases your chances for a lot of problems.
Here's the thing about this, though, and when we talked with Dr. Katie O'Neill about long COVID, which I still don't understand what long COVID is.
Like long, like the distance long?
Yeah, like the span of time. You don't just have COVID for 2 weeks and you're clear.
Okay.
You have COVID like in perpetuity. But like, I think we all need to pause on all the diagnoses for like a decade and then come back around and actually piece together based off of what's happening, or what has happened, not what we think will happen.
Yeah.
I need to get Jim Donnellan on the show to talk about this insurance fraud committee, because this is the biggest piece of butt wipe legislation that I think we're going to
Malarkey.
see.
Where are you wanting to start here?
The Delete Act, and then the Let's Sue Facebook because my kid is addicted to Facebook Act.
That's like suing McDonald's because you got fat,
Um,
which I guarantee you someone has done.
well, yes, they have. Well, they've sued McDonald's over hot coffee before.
Wasn't that
A Seinfeld episode. It was in real life too.
Yeah. No, I heard of the real story. Wasn't it because like it spilled on them?
Yeah.
Like, in the car.
They had hot coffee. The lid wasn't on properly. It was super hot coffee because that's what they have, super hot coffee.
Yeah, it's very hot.
Yeah.
It fell in her lap. and
That's
it
tough.
scalded her.
Imagine that'd be a horrible way to start your Monday.
Oh, by the way, good morning, YouTube. I haven't even opened the YouTubes yet this morning. My apologies. I am so sorry. What's good, y'all? Eric, Renee, Clinton, Byron, Troy, everybody. Byron says, I see you, Haggai, checking out the booze behind you. Go ahead, it's Friday. I have a feeling Byron is a few minutes behind, and that's back to the beginning of the show. Yeah. Bagley should have rationalized the bill based on health privacy grounds rather than vaccine freedom. 1,000%. Or don't file the bill. You know, when we had Paula Davis on the other day, she said, today's the deadline. Today meaning Friday's the deadline, not the day that I had her on. She says Friday's the deadline to file a maximum of 5 bonus bills. Like, you have all the pre-filed legislation, then you have until today to get 5 more bills in. And I was like, that's a maximum, though, right? It's not a minimum. It's not a requirement. We don't have to write everything down and make everything a dead-gum law. Dead-gummit, Bobby. And we can all just step aside and say, hey, let it pass. Just let it go.
It's phasing
Elsa.
itself out.
Say again?
It's phasing itself out. I mean,
It is. It's becoming less and less relevant.
I mean, when the city of New York is not asking anymore, this is not needed.
Right. But if I'm a business owner, that's my business. If it's my business and I want to say no shirt, no shoes, no vax, no service, that's my business. What Larry Bagley is proposing is oppressive government.
And
It's the reverse of
He
it.
was called on that by several legislators.
Oh, as he should be.
I mean, there were several people in the news article, in the news story on Channel 2 last night that
I didn't.
called him out.
Real quick.
Hey, Rodney.
There are like two commercials in the stack
Uh-huh.
between 47 and 50 that are just not allowed to play.
What are they titled?
Bassett Furniture, LA, Land Bank.
Yeah, neither one of those are mine. So,
Yeah, they're not live reads. It's just like commercials playing.
yeah, no, I knew that. I didn't know if they were connected to sponsors. Well, just let it roll. If we get run short, I got plenty to talk about.
If it is, like, we might as well just go longer.
Well, we don't know until we know, right? Yeah, I gotta do the Michelangelo promo.
Got to get didn't have the general informatics one.
All right, I'm sorry. 6:38. Talk 107.3 FM. Time for a cup of Tech Gumbo. Time to welcome in Haggai Davis, repping the General Informatics quarter zip today, man. That's smooth gear.
It's so comfortable too.
When General Informatics presents a segment, then they bring it.
I know.
I mean, I got to get in on some of that. It looks good. I just got like the simple gray hoodie today.
See if we can't hook you up.
I mean, I appreciate that. That's you never know how much, like, when companies invest in their swag, you take a little pride in your swag because you're taking pride in your brand. I don't know. That's what General Informatics is about. And by the way, we've got way too much to cover today. So let's just dive right in. Can we start with the Data Elimination and Limiting Extensive Tracking and Exchange Act?
The Delete Act.
Somebody went to a lot of meticulous care to acronym this bad boy. There should be an acronym Hall of Fame, and whoever sat down and figured out data elimination and limiting extensive tracking and exchange, the exchange on the end would just be delete, not delete. He got him. Whoever did this got him. So
Well,
the Delete Act is a new bill that would establish the equivalent of a do-not-call list for data brokers, the firms that build databases of people and then sell that information to third parties. So they want a do-not-call list for the people who make the calls that get you on, that push you to a do-not-call list in the first place.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So we had Senator Bill Cassidy on. We did a whole 22-minute segment with him, and he was great. I mean, we were talking about legislation involving technology.
Yes.
And he absolutely, he had numbers, he had facts, he had information, he had opinions, held back nothing.
Yes.
And it was great talking with him. And he, one of the bills that he's been a part of is the Delete Act.
Mm-hmm.
And it's trying to basically have a central place where when you want to opt out, when you don't want your stuff to be tracked anymore, you could go to one place, push the button, and say, I'm out.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. All of it makes sense. Here's the thing, though. This is like quixotic. This is, in theory, on paper, it totally makes sense. What's the likelihood that this plays out to where they could pass this all day long, and what's the likelihood that it works?
So, because you can geofence yourself, if you, let's say this works if your server is here in the U.S. If your server is overseas somewhere, you can prevent whether or not that server is going to be able to push your information here to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can require anybody doing business the same way that the European Union has control with their GDPR. This is what they're trying to. We're trying to get to something like the GDPR and general data privacy regulations.
Yes.
We're trying to do something like that here in the U.S. It's going to be really difficult to do because we're so much more diverse than the European Union is. But this is like a first step where you can create a reasonable expectation that you can opt out of having your data tracked.
So you think this would actually work?
No.
Okay. That was my question.
I think this is a good step towards eventually the next piece of legislation that comes behind this, or is a bigger piece of legislation that this is added into, can work. Yes. But for right now, I think this, as it stands, no.
Okay. I'm of the opinion that no matter how hard we try, we're never going to stay a step ahead. This will always move in another. It'll keep moving in another direction. It'll, like, if we run, they'll catch up, and then we'll run again, and they'll catch up.
Okay, this is about data collection. This is about the big data brokers, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Twitters of the world, and what they're doing with your data, and they're trying with this legislation to have it so that if you want to opt out of your information being tracked, if you want your information to be part of a bigger pool of information, okay, you want everybody who's lives in South Louisiana and all of the combined data, that's fine. But if you want Haggai Davis's information, then they're not really. This is what they're trying to say. Okay, Haggai can opt out.
Mm-hmm. All right, this is one bill.
Mm-hmm.
There are many, many more that I think are, well, if I could stick with the quixotic reference, tilting at windmills. There's a California bill as well, aiming to make tech firms liable for social media addiction in children. How much of this is fantasy? How much of this is actually doable? Do we know? We know so little about mental health to begin with. How is this even possible to pin something on a?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
But let's walk down the path anyway.
But what they're trying to do with this legislation is, when you're 15 years or younger, and the senator brought that up, 15 years or younger, and you spend way too much time on one app or one online site or something like that, it's, again, they're trying to create some kind of limits as to how much time that you can spend in that app. And then also, again, what are they doing with the data about you in that app? So if this social media platform, which has really cool videos that are real short and everybody's fallen in love with,
yeah,
and you're 14 years old and you're spending 8 hours a day on this app, then they want to shut that down. They don't want your kid spending that much time on one thing.
So you police this on the front end. You got to give your age to open the account anyway, right? Can your age time you out?
Yes, but it's real hard to say, when you're creating your account, that I was born in 1923. And I mean, how's it going to know that you're lying? I mean, when you're 14 years old, do you really have to give your right birthday?
This would be the only. To me, this is the only step that the social media companies can take in order to try to police it. when you're there, you do put in your age, and they don't know the difference. I was born in 1976, and there's no way for them to know if I was actually born in 1976. You're right, but it's like the label on the side of a cigarette package. It's not gonna actually do anything, but it's gonna cover their butt.
Right.
So when a kid signs up for a social media account, this would cover their butt. Not solve anything, but cover. And by the way, this is called the Social Media Platform Duty to Children Act, which is a way worse acronym.
The another bill he talked about was the TLDR Act, or as he called it, the too long didn't read. It's about.
I was saving this one because
no,
we're gonna do this one on the backside of the break. I wanted room to run on this one. I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
I tell you what, we are due up for a break here in just a minute. Yeah, we're gonna basically talk about service agreements being understandable. We're going to might dive into a little bit of Wordle. We don't care about your Wordle score, but if there's hacks, we want them. Also, the future of hybrid work with Windows 11 is coming very soon. Going to break Going to break all these things down and more. If you're not watching on YouTube, you might want to hop on YouTube because the discussion will continue on air. Let's take you to a break, and then Your Money Now on Talk 107.3. All right. So hey, we might be getting Congressman Graves at 7:15. The only thing that I liked about this was, you do have to sign up, but this can tie into other things to where you want your kids to be honest about putting their age in to protect them from predators. There should also be something tied into this that if you put in that you're 15 years old, you should be there should be added security steps for others to communicate with you.
Right. If you put in you're 15 years old, okay, I need your parents' email address, so
Right.
I need to communicate to your parents.
Right.
Well, 8-year-old kid's going to say, "Oh, I'm 36," and then now it's a meaningless.
Yeah. Right. Well, you're basically an online fake ID.
And if your parents don't know what you're doing because you're inside your phone in your room or just wherever.
Okay. Oh. Well, that's going to do what?
I got rid of some. They were stacked 5-second promos.
All right.
So that and traffic, which is 15 seconds, should be enough.
All right.
Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Talk 107.3. The more things change, the more Dave Ramsey's stations to say. Exactly. Looking at purchasing
Okay.
which would be our second home. The question is, would you recommend us finance the condo if we do have the cash to pay for it? Never. Okay. You call Dave Ramsey and ask him if you should go into well, I guess look at the low interest rate, and I know
This is an old promo that I brought back because I really, really liked it.
circumstances will do that. Catch Dave Ramsey.
Hearing Dave Ramsey laugh like he's Muttley.
107.3 FM. Now, your daily DRZ traffic updates from Ashley Fouché.
Yeah.
Check it on your drive right now. All lanes are open around I-110 northbound. We had an issue around Laurel Street. Actually, it was a crash over to the shoulder.
Troy says, way to go, California. Substitute parenting by legislation. Take their big gulps away while you're at it. The thing about that, though, is if I'm riding in the car and my daughter's in the back seat and has a big gulp, I can see that big gulp. I can't see what's going on inside the phone unless I'm constantly confiscating the phone.
And my guess is
And don't at me unless you have a teenager right now, because it's just different. There are battles you fight and battles you don't, and I eventually gave in on the social media one. And it's actually been, my daughter's very responsible about it, but I could see very easily how others slip down those rabbit holes.
are they allowed internet-facing devices in their bedrooms?
What do you mean? Yes.
See, we never did that.
I don't know how to not to.
You just don't take your phone in your room. You can't take your computer in your room.
There's a lot of homework done on FaceTime. There's a lot of group projects that are done.
Okay, there's a table right there.
Mm.
Well, you got.
And there's a 5-year-old running around.
I get it. I mean, our house is a little different. We 2 kids, 7 grades apart. It's A lot different.
I mean, there's a 14-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old,
I know.
and it's you know what? You have your own room. You go in your own room. You get your work done, and you need that quiet time. I get it though. It would be a good hard and fast rule, but there's just too many variables within it. Plus, like me, she uses her phone as her alarm clock. She uses her phone, for 100 different things. She's watching videos when she's not. So. Oh, sweet. Will Elite prevent targeted ads? I don't mind them. Have bought some cool things that I wouldn't otherwise have found on my own. Let's see. How can we make Elite? Is that an actual thing? Oh, okay.
No, the bill was delete, not elite.
Oh, well, no. Well, can we figure out how Elite would be a good acronym for that?
I don't work for the Congress.
You can tell the difference between congressional acronyms and statewide.
Oh yeah.
Boy, you can tell the difference between congressional acronyms and statewide acronyms. I mean, they've just got no game in California.
That's the difference of the major leagues and minor leagues.
It totally is. Yeah, if you're pushing 91 on your fastball, you're not moving up to AA. You're certainly not hitting the show. Social media platform duty to children act, the SMD act. You got to get something catchier. This just isn't going to work. Haggai, we were talking during the break about this. There is a I feel like this has the room. While it ultimately can be as ineffective as checking IDs when you can have fake IDs, it's even more exacerbated online. But this could be tied into something that could further protect children from predators as well.
Yes. So, if it works,
if
there is actual teeth built into the legislation, and the social media companies all cooperate.
So, as a parent of a 14-year-old, when my 14-year-old signed up,
bless you for that,
girl no less. As my 14-year-old was signing up for her various social media accounts, and I fought tooth and nail, and I'm over. I have a very poor winning percentage here. But as this was going on, one of the things that I did make sure of was the information that was entered into the accounts to sign up, the settings and whatnot, were done so accurately. As far as Facebook or Instagram is concerned, my 14-year-old is a 14-year-old.
Good.
And that is, to me, that is important because, number one, if something like this were to pass, all the social media accounts would know, hey, keep a 36-year-old dude away from her. Like, there needs to be separation. Then if timing were, if they could, hey, you're only 14, you're allowed a maximum of an hour a day on our platform.
It's a worthy goal.
Yes.
I admire the thought, the feel-goodism legislation that it is, until there's some real hooks, some meat that's going to really make this have to work.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just feel-goodism for now, because it's just California.
Right, and also output is only as good as input.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, this was the one that I wanted to make sure we had some room to run, and we got a good 5 minutes to go here, so let's dive in. A group of bipartisan lawmakers introduced legislation in both chambers Thursday aimed at simplifying websites' terms of service agreements. The Terms of Service Labeling, Design, and Readability Act, the TLDR, not the best acronym, would require websites to include a summary statement that explains their terms in easy-to-digest language and discloses what, if any, sensitive personal data they collect.
Again, this is one of Cassidy's bills that he's been working on. And all of these bills, by the way, are bipartisan. He's got Democrats and Republicans that are co-sponsoring the bill with him, so that's good. This legislation, he called it the too long didn't read.
Yes.
And, we've talked about it before. Candy Crush has a 16,000-word terms and condition.
Goodness gravy.
It would take you 14 hours to read the terms and conditions for Candy Crush.
Mhm.
It's a stupid little game.
Yeah.
So and the senator said it very, what are they trying to hide in those 16,000 words? And so he wants this legislation to be the equivalent of the nutritional facts on the side of your box of cereal, where you can at least see, okay, here's the fat grams, here's the sugar grams, here's the, you can see real fast in a one paragraph, this is what this is all about.
Yes. From nutritional facts to the list of ingredients, that should be pretty easy. And if they're all summaries, if they're all links to a lengthier description, that's fine too. This feels like a strong compromise that will make things easier, more user-friendly for you and me, but also not... When it comes to legal jargon's there for a reason.
Right. And it's there, it's just to cover the backside of these companies. Correct. That some, fleet of lawyers put together, and there's nothing wrong with lawyers. We gotta, we like our friends are lawyers, huh, Troy? You've got to have these things boiled down. If you're a reasonably educated person, and you can't understand the legalese because all of the contortionist maneuvers that this thing goes through, then you're not doing any good.
Right. Right. And let's keep in mind, a lot of that legalese needs to be there simply because, well, back up. You can say, well, how about you stop collecting my data? Okay, pay for the app. Pay for the app. This has been Haggai's mantra for I don't know how long now. If you are not the customer, you are the product. If you're not paying for it, you are the subject matter. Pay for the app if you don't want them collecting data.
Absolutely.
And oh, by the way, how much is Candy Crush worth to you per month? How much is I don't even know the names of half the games where you got to pull this pin out and then all the lava drops on you. I see the commercials for it all the time. But yeah, if you're not paying for the app, you are the product.
But Facebook has 12,000 words in their terms and conditions. Twitter, in any one of these companies, they have these enormous legal documents that a lot of lawyers would read and go, what?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so ridiculous as to how verbose these things are that don't need to be. Just boil it down to a single paragraph that a normal person could understand, and then have this is the summary. And then you can have your 16,000 words behind it, but those 16,000 words have to be relevant to that one paragraph.
These topics and a whole lot more coming up on this week's installment of Tech Gumbo, the full serving of Tech Gumbo, Saturday and Sunday at 4, which softball schedule-wise will air on both occasions.
Awesome.
Yeah, you'll kind of be softball's pregame this week. What else is on the show?
We're going to get into Wordle. We talked of the question of the week. Somebody said, what's the best word to use for starting Wordle?
Stare.
And, well,
S-T-A-R-E.
I've heard steam, but there's some guy, he created a mathematical formula. And, my son, he talked about his favorite word, and we talked about our different things, and we laughed at it. And it's really more about it's a game. Have fun with it.
All right, if you're listening on Talk 107.3 FM, we're going to CBS World News Roundup. If you are watching on YouTube, Microsoft is about to reveal the future of hybrid work. That's coming your way online. Here's CBS on Talk 107.3. All right, which one do you want to do first, Wordle or Microsoft? Microsoft, okay.
Microsoft is just saying on April 5th, we're going to announce how we're going to revolutionize hybrid work environment.
And how are they going to do that?
Well, they haven't said.
Oh.
They've just said that they're going to announce on April 5th. It's a teaser. And I'm like, yeah. But you've got to be in Windows 11.
Okay.
And I'm not even, Windows 11's been out for almost 6 months now, and I'm still nowhere near interested.
Last year, CEO Satya Nadella wrote that hybrid work represents the biggest shift to how we work in our generation, and it will require a new operating model, spanning people, places, and processes. Naturally, sorry, that's the end of the quote. People, places, and processes.
Mm-hmm.
The places thing has me curious because people and processes, we know how those can be interconnected. Places is a weird thing because it just...
What he's talking, whether you're using a VPN, whether you're using remote desktop service, or how are you connecting back to the network?
That to me, that's processes, not play. Okay, so I'm just misreading it.
It's connectivity.
Yeah.
And
All right.
so, are they creating a new way to connect that's more secure back to the corporate servers? I mean, if that's the deal, okay, great. That'll be interesting. I mean,
how far can this go? Are we going to
and do you have to have Windows 11 for it to work? What if you're on a Mac?
My guess is that's a good question. That is a good question.
What if you're on a Linux computer?
Right, and how much VR is going to play into this?
That's
what has me curious. Is what are we going to go when Laverne and Shirley put the glove on the beer bottle and wave goodbye? Are you going to be VRing assembly lines to monitor the robots that are actually on the assembly lines?
Yeah, Myron said lawyers are like consultants. When companies hire them to do contracts, they often feel they have to be verbose to justify their fees. They get paid by the word.
So consultants are fall into two different camps. And my experience with them, as far as radio consultants are concerned, my experience with them has been the consultant who kicks down the front door and gives you his resume and tells you how he's going to change things is a useless piece of dung. The consultant who says, what have y'all been doing, what's been working, what hasn't, is the one who is actually looking to find a solution and consult. Consultation is a back and forth.
Yes.
So, all right, Wordle. Mm-hmm. This Wordle trick kept my streak going, and you'll probably hate it. Have you done today's yet?
No.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not going to tell you what it is.
All right.
All right. So Wordle, I do. So I finish. When I finish my show prep, I've got a couple minutes to kind of decompress before the show. That's when I do my Wordle every morning. So
I don't do it every day. I think I'm up about 80, 85 of them, and I've only missed twice.
Yeah, I think I've missed one so far. Now, do you have the app, or do you go directly? I go to the New York Times site every day. I don't want to download the app.
I just go online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know why? I don't have to give it any information. I don't have to look at any ads. I just go to the New York Times site. Yes. 7:15 on the phone. Oh, let me let his guy know.
Should I label it as DC current?
Yes, please.
Did you see that that prosecutor in New York resigned, talking about how they should have gone after Trump?
I pay so little attention to that at this point.
It was just a headline that caught me, so I grabbed it. I read the New York Times article about it, but basically this guy, he was one of the top prosecutors, but because his boss said, no, we're not going to do anything, he quit, and he wrote a letter saying, Trump was guilty and blah, blah, blah. And that's New York politics, and I get it, but it was just, anytime I hear Trump, I'm like, oh.
All right.
Yes.
A great starter Wordle word is not the way to go. I promise Wordle super popular. So, want some Wordle advice? Even if you might not like it, I've got a tip that's helped me get a better scores in my second streak in the game. Why am I such an amateur expert? Of the 71 Wordle puzzles I've played, I've only lost one, and I'm currently on a 38-day streak in Wordle. My colleague Mark McLaren, who keeps our today's Wordle answer story updated, may have a much better record, 271-1. That's kind of ridiculous. But I bet you don't see his advice in the next guy. So the advice is?
You can use words like ado, which gets a lot of your vowels.
You knock out 4 out of 5 vowels with ado.
Steam. It basically, are you going to play it like you're playing Wheel of Fortune?
That's how I do it.
You're playing Wheel of Fortune. Just, what letters are you going to eliminate?
Right.
Or are you going to do the mathematical where you're breaking this down? Okay, so if I've got a vowel, the second and fifth letters are vowels. Okay, that means and you're breaking it down that way.
But the number of possibilities far exceeds the number of You only have a finite number of opportunities to get it done. So, yeah, I go Wheel of Fortune style, RSTLNE. Stare covers a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, yes, there will be 2 vowels, usually in a 5-letter word, so that's why I go with stare. And from there, you eliminate a lot right off the bat. My next word is usually going to include 2 other vowels, or unless the A or the E are there, then I'm just either keeping them or moving them around.
There was one. Power was a word that a lot of people use.
Power is a decent. Well,
steam.
Do enough words have a W in it?
I don't know.
I know. That's why I always start RSTLNE.
There's not a right, not a wrong answer. Is
No.
the bottom line.
Yeah.
As to what is the best.
So I'm usually third guess, sometimes. Oh, well, I'm usually fourth guess, sometimes third. 706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Thanks again to Haggai Davis, host of Tech Gumbo, for stopping by. Tech Gumbo, you can catch us Saturday and Sunday at 4, presented by Cardinal Capital and General Informatics, right here on Talk 107.3 FM or anywhere you get your podcasts on demand. If you missed it during the break, if you're watching on YouTube, you did get to hear a little bit of it. But why is Wordle so compelling? Yes, nobody cares about your score, okay?
Because it's simple. It's like why everyone loves Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, true.
It's simple, it's easy, and it's catchy, and it's the 3 colors.
Yeah. You're either right letter, wrong place, or right letter, right place. And yes, nobody cares about your Wordle score. Your Wordle score is the equivalent of your fantasy football lineup. It's fantastic for you. Nobody else cares. But we all care about our own, which is why we talk about it during the break. So, thanks to Haggai for stopping by. You can get that segment on demand at talk1073.com in just a little bit. By the way, one of the pieces from that is we were talking about, do you have the same word that you start with every day? Stare. It's like Wheel of Fortune. Hey, there was an LSU kid on Wheel of Fortune last night. I needed to go back. I meant to go back and see if he won. Yeah. LSU, we had one on Jeopardy not long ago. Oh. Now Wheel of Fortune.
I did not know that.
Yeah, good stuff. We're going to see if he won. Anyway, check out the YouTube channel. If you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. You'll get an alert when we go live every day at 6 a.m. or when we go live for outside coverage like what we did earlier this week with the storm. Or as the legislative session wears on, there might be some pop-ins along the way. Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. You're going to want to check that out. Addition to the lineup. I like when this happens. Addition to the lineup. Congressman Garret Graves could not join us on Wednesday for his normal D.C. Current hit. Congressman Garret Graves will join us in 8 minutes from right now. Bonus D.C. or Mulligan D.C. Current coming your way at 7:15. We got a lot to talk with the congressman about. Not the least of which is what's going on with Ukraine right now. We're going to talk a little bit about, coming up in about a week, flood insurance. The second phase will go into effect. Also, we had Pankerville's own Dan Bruyette on the show yesterday talking about LNG terminals that were approved at the end of last week. We could be reaching a deal that sends liquefied natural gas from Louisiana to Europe very soon. All good things. All good things coming your way in our next segment. Going to get you the top stories and trending in just a second. First, though, want to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's. All right, LSU baseball and softball are on the road this weekend, right? Bummer. I'm not going to send you by Mathern's for your tailgating goods. I'm going to send you by Mathern's to get your crawfish boiling goods, your shrimp boil, or if you're just barbecuing this weekend, no matter what you've got going on, Mathern's is a full-service grocery store. Now, if you live around the area of, like, let's say, Lee and Burbank, where Winn-Dixie used to be, Winn-Dixie's closed now. A lot of people were looking for a new grocery home. That's where Mathern's comes in. They are your new grocery home. Head back towards campus. Nicholson Drive, the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, right across the street from Tiger Stadium. Yes, it's on campus. No, it's not just for students. Yes, they are a full-service grocery store. And yes, you can save time each and every week by downloading the Mathern's app. Get your grocery shopping done without even leaving the car at Mathern's. All right, time for top stories and trending. Let's go. All right, if you can make heads or tails of this story, then good on you. The Amalgamated Transit Unit, the ATU, Transit Union, excuse me, is calling on the Baton Rouge bus system to rehire any employee who was terminated for a failed drug test. The demand comes 24 hours after our news partners at WBRZ's investigative unit, that would be Nakamoto and crew, exposed the Capital Area Transit System as once again selectively enforcing their zero-tolerance drug policy. Now, CATS says it's a little bit different when it comes to zero tolerance. We'll get to that in a second. CATS operates on a nearly $30 million budget funded by tax dollars. John Catrone is the comptroller at CATS. He controls the money. According to documents obtained by WBRZ, he tested positive for illicit drugs, methamphetamine. The CATS board put out a statement expressing shock and disappointment, not in Catrone, but in WBRZ's reporting that the guy who handles the system's $30 million budget popped positive. The statement also said that in spite of what was reported about the test, Catrone has told them he didn't take any drugs. Oh, well, I mean, if he said he didn't. The statement also said their drug test policy only applies when public safety is at risk, basically drivers, not front office. Also, and this is interesting, the HR employee who called for the drug test, no longer with CATS. All right, I'm just going to toss this out there. Without even texting Nakamoto yet, let's just say Nakamoto is going to be on the show Monday. Kind of have to, right? They're aghast that WBRZ reported on it. That would be like asking to see your spouse's phone. You look, or not asking to see your spouse's phone. You just grab your spouse's phone, and you find out they're cheating on you, and they're mad at you for looking at their phone. That's the equivalent right there. You're cheating on me? You looked at my phone? Louisiana lost more than 20,000 residents from July 1st, 2020 to July 1st of last year, or about 0.6% of the population. This is according to U.S. Census Bureau data. The Bureau's report is a mixed bag for the capital region, East Baton Rouge, East Feliciana, Eberville, and Point Capee losing population, while other parishes gained or held steady. By the way, Lake Charles had the biggest decrease among metro areas, 5.3%. No doubt a lot of that left over from Hurricane Laura, Delta and Zeta. A Louisiana State Penitentiary assistant warden has been officially placed on administrative leave. Assistant Warden Luke Reams. His leave comes after a departmental investigation. As of right now, the Department of Corrections has not released any information on this ongoing investigation. As we get more in, we will have more for you. A bank account used to pay bills and dump cash from a web of local massage parlors led authorities to a woman they accused of running finances for a citywide prostitution ring. Grabbing this one from our news partners over at The Advocate. Yesterday's arrest of Yankin Rowe, 61 years old, marked the latest in a month-long probe that, according to the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, shows the extent of such underground networks and their possible ties to human trafficking. Taking you out to Southern University yesterday, where a student was arrested overnight the night before for her alleged role in a shootout. This was in the parking lot of Southern University's dorms. The gunfire Tuesday afternoon stemmed from an argument outside Jones Hall, a residential building on the college's campus. According to arrest records, 22-year-old Jamila Wilson was in the parking lot with three others when they were approached by a pair of men, one of whom she identified as G. Wilson told police that G had a gun in his waistband, was telling him to leave because she had beef with her friends back in New Orleans. Wilson's charges include carrying a weapon in a firearm-free zone, that worked out, by a student, and principal to illegal use of a weapon. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending. Temporary DraftKings Sportsbook is now open at Hollywood Casino Baton Rouge. We'll talk about that more later. We're late. Let's take a break. Come back. Congressman Garret Graves joins us next for D.C. Current. Oh. Bruh, I got a sneaky feeling Coach K is going to ride this one all the way to the championship. Arizona and Gonzaga were the two giants here. And they gone. Either that. Oh, you want to talk about Cinderella, not Cinderella story, but fairy tale ending? Where's North Carolina in the bracket? Are they on the other side? Would Duke face, if everything plays out, would Duke face North Carolina in the Final Four or the championship game? Ah, crap. I threw away my bracket because it's Dookie. No, they'd meet in the Final Four, not the championship. Damn it. All right. That would have been beautiful, though. If you could map it out to where Duke and North Carolina would have been, it would have been a rematch for Krzyzewski's last home game. How long has Bill Muscleman been in Arkansas? Why do I keep calling Eric Musselman Bill Musselman? .718 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP, running a couple minutes behind, so let's dive right in. It's time for DC Current. It is time to welcome in Congressman Garret Graves. Congressman, appreciate you hopping on board this morning, sir.
Yeah, no, great to be back with you. How you doing?
Doing very, very well this morning. I appreciate you with the makeup date. I know things get busy from time to time, so thank you for the flexibility.
No, thank you.
Where to start this week? You know what? Let's start with $1.7 billion coming down from HUD. I believe this is the same story. Hurricane and flood funding was announced this week. Always a mixed bag when you see more money coming in because it's good news that help is getting here, but simultaneously frustrating that the wheels move so slowly.
That's a great summary, Brian. Look, after the 2016 flood, we were able to secure $1.7 billion for our region. We had the first tranche of money within 1 month of the flood, and similarly in this case, within 1 month of Hurricane Ida, we had secured about $5 billion for both 2020 and 2021 disasters, but that included California wildfires and others. So look, it's great news that the announcement came through. What's frustrating is that we really worked incredibly hard to get these dollars secured 1 month after Hurricane Ida. I remind you, it was about 14 months after the first of the 2020 hurricane. So we got our money a lot faster, but it took 6 months just for the agency to tell us how much of the $5 billion they were going to give us. 6 months. Could you imagine being stuck in a tent or a travel trailer or in a makeshift, house that you kind of salvage what you could for 6 months, waiting for some bureaucrats to count beans? So good news that the money has been announced, at least how much we're getting. But I got to tell you, pretty frustrating that it's taken them this long just to count some beans.
No, 100%. And yeah, remembering back to the 2016 flood, it was tough enough to find a contractor at the time. I couldn't imagine not being able to even look for a contractor simply because we had to wait on extended funding. And yeah,
well, and then for those the folks out there waiting for some type of assistance, I just want to remind you, this is the first step in the process. The state still has to put an entire spending plan together. The agency has to approve it. Then they have to go through and apply for funds. There is nothing efficient or good about this process, and we've filed legislation to fix it.
And just to kind of put it in perspective, you could, if on a timeline scale, you could have not had your driver's license when the flood hit and be legally drinking today.
There you go. But then in your case, you had a fake ID, so
whoa, wait. Statute of limitations, Congressman. We're good.
All right, I might have made that up.
No, it's all good. Well, I neither confirm nor deny. Let's talk about the short attention span theater that plays into this, though. 6 months, or much shorter timeline on Ida than Laura, Delta, and Zeta. What's your takeaway there? Is this a matter of short attention span theater in that when Laura, Delta, and Zeta hit, we were at the heart of COVID. We were all COVID crazy at the time. Ida, we had a little more room to have our feet underneath us and know what was what. Or is this a matter of Laura and Delta specifically were not top markets, whereas Ida was New Orleans, which isn't a top-tier market overall as far as population is concerned, but is bigger than Lake Charles?
Yeah, look, you can go back and armchair quarterback this thing all day long. I think that there were just a number of moves that were wrong. I don't think this thing was properly prioritized across administrations. I think there are a lot of places you can point fingers in terms of where mistakes were made, but this one was just not handled well at all. And I really feel for the folks in Southwest Louisiana that are going to probably be 2 years after their disaster before they see the first assistance coming through this recovery program.
It's so insane and so frustrating at the same time. Meanwhile, census data tells us that from July 1, 2020 to July 1 of 2021, Lake Charles lost 5% of its population. No doubt there's correlation here.
No question about it. Now, I want to throw some good news out there. There was a significant chunk of change that was secured to help come in and begin building better hurricane protection or just resiliency for Southwest Louisiana across Cameron, Calcasieu, and Vermilion parishes over there. So, there is some, in addition to the recovery funds, there are going to be some substantial investments in trying to build better hurricane protection, strategic restoration of the coast over there, which I really think is critical, and sort of lets those communities know that helps on the way, and it's going to be a safer place to live.
The strategic restoration of the coast over there is a bit of an odd bag because it's a different strategy than it is on the eastern part of the state.
Southwest Louisiana is a different animal for a lot of reasons. One of them just kind of geologically. It is a different type of coast. In our part of South Louisiana, we were all built from the Mississippi River, a little bit newer land, a deltaic plain, whereas over in Southwest Louisiana, the Cheniers or Cheniers over there are sort of these lateral ridges that were built along the coast. And so it is a different animal. There are different solutions, but, you do have rivers like the Calcasieu River, and the ability to take sediment from the Atchafalaya River, sending it further over to the west to help with restoration. But there's a really symbiotic opportunity because the dredging of the Calcasieu River, you got to do something with all that spoil material, that sediment that you're dredging out, because they don't have places to put it. They don't have disposal areas. So we've really been working on a program for years now, strategically placing that in areas where you're actually doing wetlands or coastal restoration projects. So it's kind of a win-win opportunity over there.
Congressman Garret Graves is with us. We call it DC Current. Normally on Wednesdays, Congressman was able to give us a mulligan this week and make it up on a Friday. Let's talk flood insurance. There's going to be some big news coming down next week as the second phase will go into effect.
Yeah, so this is something that people really need to be paying close attention to if you have flood insurance. Any new flood insurance policy that goes into effect April 1st or later, there is a new internal FEMA policy that is going to result in significantly higher rates for a lot of people in South Louisiana. We've seen rates going from $650, $560, increasing up to $6,000, $7,000, even $9,000 in a year. And this was all done bureaucratically. This was something that had started back under Obama administration. We were able to stop it. We were able to keep it at bay during the Trump administration. And just recently, they decided to move forward. Now, the good news is that for existing policies, it will not increase faster than 18% a year. I don't know if I can call that good news. Just it's not as bad, but we're continuing to work and have negotiations going on in Congress trying to fix this. And Brian, as you and I have talked about so many times before, rather than fighting over what outrageous flood insurance rates you should have, the better solution is getting flood protection in place, getting hurricane protection in place, and that's why we've worked to secure a total of $6 billion in new flood protection, hurricane protection, and coastal resilience investments for South Louisiana just in about the last 3 or 4 years. And so that's ultimately the solution, because better flood protection means lower rates.
Is there like a ratio? Is there a comparison, I should say, of how much flood protection has to go in order to the flood maps to change to affect our rates? To take it from governmental spending and governmental action all the way down to our wallet. Is there a one-to-one here?
Well, the good news there is that we've been working with FEMA and the Corps of Engineers and others, and FEMA's agreed that once some of these key projects have hit a 50% mark, 50% completion, because the other component is you have to demonstrate you have the rest of the money available, which we have all the money secured in the bank, again, with $6 billion major investments. So the deal is that once you hit that, FEMA can come in and redo their flood maps as though the project was finished, and folks could start seeing flood insurance relief even before these projects are totally completed.
Got a couple of minutes left with Congressman Garret Graves. I would love to continue exploring that one, but I want to make sure we talk LNG before we get out of here, because we're about to see. So earlier this week, we had Pankerville's own Dan Burriette on with us, and we were talking about the export hub in Louisiana. You didn't miss that one, did you? We were talking about the export hub in Louisiana that could save Europe. This story continues to grow legs, and it fascinates me.
It is fascinating that you continue to report the fake news that Dan Burriette's from Pankerville, because we all know that he's actually from Napoleonville. But in any case, and look, Brad, this is really something that we've been working on and have been trying to talk to this White House about from day one. Look, let's put these dots together. One, Louisiana exports more liquefied natural gas than any other state in the country. Two, we have the ability to export even more if they will approve the construction of these export terminals. Number three, exporting LNG, liquefied natural gas from Louisiana, displaces Russian energy, which is a win for so many reasons, including taking away a cash cow from Vladimir Putin. Four, our natural gas is so much cleaner delivered than Russian gas. Russian gas is about 40% dirtier than U.S. gas delivered to Europe. And five, it creates increased demand for Louisiana natural gas, for American natural gas, giving our economy a boost, giving people more employment opportunities. Look, this is just, it makes sense from every angle, and this administration, previous administrations, should have been leaning forward harder on this for an extended period of time. Now we found ourselves in a situation where we need a solution yesterday, but it's going to take us a couple of years to ultimately get all this new capacity in place.
Can you handicap it for us, though? I mean, the likelihood that we get where we need to be?
Well, so you've got, as you know, Brian, you've got people in Congress that have just demonized oil and gas, or let me be more specific, demonized American oil and gas, and in some cases have actually facilitated Russian oil and gas being sold to some of our allies. It makes no sense. The biggest challenge we have at this point is honestly trying to figure out how to create a face-saving approach for these people to just do what they should have been doing years ago. And so I think that we end up getting more liquefied natural gas export capacity in place to where we can send Louisiana's gas to some of these countries that so badly need to get off the Russian pipelines, to get off the Russian gas. But I do think it's just going to take years to ultimately get where we need to be. And we've been saying this for years, so it should have been done a while back. And now this is the exact predicament that we said was going to happen years ago if we didn't lean forward or be more aggressive on this. So I think it's going to happen. I just think that we're going to have some painful times between now and when this is completed.
He is Congressman Garret Graves, joins us every week for DC Current. I greatly appreciate the time, sir. Thank you so much.
Brian, thank you. Have a good day.
You too. We're coming up on CBS News here at the bottom of the hour. And yeah, the liquefied natural gas story, this is one that is a win, 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 win. Huge. Huge. All right, quick break. When we come back, let's get inside the head of Vladimir Putin next. Yes, sir.
Love you, brother.
Love you too. You can only not smoke meth if you're driving a bus.
Good.
But if you're handling the whole budget.
Hey, when this guy says he's leaving for a salad and a sandwich, let me tell you something. I just hope he's not doing lunch with the Cats driving. Coach, that is unbelievable. And then think, every year, passed the school board renewal. Now I did the Cats last November. Now you know how much more money it's going to cost because everybody they let go because of flunking a drug test or didn't hire. Then they got to process them all again. And what's that? It's unbelievable. It's Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Wait, you ready for this, Rich? Are you ready for this? Get ready for it. And this is total conjecture. I'm just predicting here. We're going to have to vote on whether or not to have a higher millage to fund Cats because it's going to take more money to pay off what they're going to owe to all the drivers who were fired.
Who knows how many people are going to file suits now?
That's what I'm talking about.
Coach, and you know what? Hey, guess what? I open up, I got double Dutch bus right in a White Rabbit. Coach, this is incredible. It's absolutely phenomenal.
So I'm going to have Nakamoto on Monday. The story is just so much to unpack. I don't. Hey, here's the equation. The equivalency I made was Katz is pissed at WBRZ for reporting the story. We are shocked and appalled. This is like if you grab your spouse's phone and you see she's been texting with another dude and you get mad at her, but she gets mad at you for looking at her phone. Right. Katz is mad that we looked at their phone. Katz is mad that Nakamoto found they were cheating.
Good, you know what? Facilitating the whole you read about all the fights.
Yeah.
I came up with an angle. I think it's time that every parish has its own slogan. You know, every state does. So I got like 10 parishes. You know, to hear mine for 10, you
930 fights. Is Dana White running that school district?
You saw what the school superintendent said?
Yeah.
You know what you should have said?
What?
Make sure your phone's charged before you get here. Bring your charger, because we're not responsible if you don't get the video. And I think every custodian ought to be responsible. And then what they can do at the end of the year, I'll get with the school superintendent. We'll look at every fight, and we'll do a best of. We'll sell it and make money for the school system.
I'm there.
You in, B?
I'm in.
Hey, B, I know it's no big deal, but...
Hey, look, I'm not paying the $39.95, but we'll pool our money together and get some beers. Are we calling this guy or is this guy calling us? I had an entire segment written out. Like I had 16 minutes worth of radio to do there. Glad to throw it away for the congressman. That was a damn good segment. But let me see if this guy's calling us or if we're calling him. Oh, let's try to sneak the Pankerville one past the congressman. Do I? Yeah. Kurt Gray. Oh, I need you to call him. Upon a hill across a blue lake. I gotta close all these legislative sites now. I had like 6 bills open. So the bit that I was gonna do, and I might like refine it and do it later just for YouTube, was legislative busy work. All the shit that's in front of the Capitol or in the Capitol that isn't gonna get anything done at the end of the day. It's gonna be a lot of bloviating and sound bites. Louisiana lawmakers discuss making vaccine discrimination a crime that we talked about a little bit earlier on. A bill to create an authority to oversee name storm insurance fraud. Both of those. And I had like 3 more. I was also going to talk about Denise Amoroso versus Shauna Banks.
Well, it's better to be over-prepared.
Always. Always. .737, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Narcissism, gaslighting. These are 2 terms we hear in everyday society in America all the time. Way overused. How does this apply in Russia? The headline reads, Understanding Putin's Victimhood Narrative. To hear the Kremlin tell it, Russian forces are currently engaged in a noble struggle against fascists in Ukraine and bullying NATO aggressors with the U.S. as the primary villain in their version of the tale. To those of us watching vivid images of Russian forces shelling neighborhoods, killing civilians, and destroying Ukrainian infrastructure, this yarn is obviously absurd and infuriating. But there's a reason why. From Vladimir Putin to Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela to Bashar al-Assad of Syria, we see totalitarian leaders claim they're under attack even when they're the aggressors. Joining us now to talk about this is the author of this column, Dr. Kurt Gray. Dr. Gray, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on.
No, thrilled to have you on and be talking about this because I think there's so much more than Russia to unpack from it. But let's start with the victimhood narrative. Just layman's terms, spell it out. What is the victimhood narrative that we're seeing from Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, great question. So the victimhood narrative is just the story that he's telling himself, that he's not the aggressor, that he's not the villain, that he's actually the victim. And what allows him and all of us to some degree sometimes to tell this story of victimhood is that victimhood is a matter of perception. It's something that exists in our minds. And so maybe Vladimir felt neglected as a kid. Maybe he thinks that his own spies are coming to get him. He builds this world of victimhood in his mind, and that makes him feel licensed to do whatever he wants, including kill civilians in Ukraine.
Okay, to feel like a victim is one thing. To pass off the narrative is another. How do you get from the feeling to what it takes for a person to be able to convince his own nation that he is actually the victim?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know how well he's doing it, right? He's got these propaganda campaigns to try to convince everyone. And I think they're effective to some extent, but I think some people can see through it, right? Because victimhood's a matter of perception, but it's also constrained by reality, right? And so when other people are looking on, we can see he's not a victim. There's a story of this kid a couple years ago, rich kid, killed someone in a hit and run, and he said that he was a victim because he was too rich and hadn't been, raised right by his parents, right? And we can see through that as well.
Yes.
And so it's a matter of perception, but also, other people can know as well.
I just want to pause for a moment to clarify. Your comments in no way, shape, or form are giving Vladimir Putin any kind of excuse for his behavior. As you're saying this out loud, I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should just let everybody know that this is not excuse making or anything like that. It's just an explanation overall.
Yeah, oh my goodness, that's exactly true. I think he's a monster. He's a monster.
Okay.
Right, full stop.
There you go.
Yeah, full stop. I mean, so this exercise is trying to figure out, like, how can someone be a monster, a real, good old-fashioned monster, and in their own mind think that they are not the monster, right? No evil person gets up in the morning and says, you know what, I'm an evil monster, even if they act that way. And so we're trying to figure out why Putin maybe doesn't think of himself as evil and how those thoughts actually make him act more evilly, right? Because he doesn't recognize the kind of terror that he's causing.
Is there a way to know how to unpack this? Is there a way to know how much of this would actually be in his own thoughts, or how much he is utilizing the narrative because he's just a megalomaniac?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you brought up the word narcissist.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So the interesting thing about narcissists, both Putin and everyday narcissists, is they walk around full of hubris. Right? They're cocky, they're arrogant. But if you do some kind of psychological test, you can show that they actually have a really brittle, fragile self-esteem. And so, I haven't sat down with Putin to psychoanalyze him, but you could imagine, right? He's just like living in terror for the next spy to come up behind him and, stab a knife through his ribs or poison his food. And so he's living in fear, I think, and he's using that experience of fear to kind of license his misdeeds.
Let's talk about narcissism for just a minute, because I think it's an overused and misused term around here. You mentioned the word cocky within there. You could be arrogant, you could be cocky, you could be very self-assured without being a narcissist. Technically, what's the difference? What makes someone a narcissist?
Yeah, so a narcissist is someone who is very confident, who's very arrogant, as you mentioned, right? But it's not necessarily the same. But they also have this really brittle self-esteem, almost this like self-doubt. And that means that when you insult them or challenge them or, question their reality, then they get really defensive, and that defensiveness makes them get aggressive, like a cornered animal, right? A narcissist, they're kind of like the angry badger in the cave, right? You go in and you question their reality, and then they lash out. And that's what Putin's doing, right? The more he feels cornered, the more he acts to cause terror and to aggress.
Now, because of that and because of those reactions, it always feels like some sort of, anomaly might be the right word, but the fact that they rise to power in the first place, it seems like the rising to power would be the goal in order to compensate for what they lack internally. But getting others to buy in feels like it would be very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's true if you think about it from imagine there's one choice point, right? And people have to say, do I agree with Putin or do I not? Do I want to have a megalomaniac terrorist as my president or not? But it's a slippery slope, right? Maybe people don't realize it at first. Maybe, he does some things you think are good for Russia. He projects strength. He, gives you some propaganda that convinces him. And now everyone's in too deep. And so now the kind of full extent of his, the fact that he's a maniac is only apparent. And so I think that kind of slippery slope can explain how Russia and Russians who don't want to be with Putin and his cabinet and even the oligarchs, are trapped.
You used one of my favorite words a minute ago. By the way, Dr. Kurt Gray is our guest. We're getting inside Vladimir Putin's head just a little bit this morning. You used one of my favorite words a little while ago, hubris. Throughout literature, throughout Greek tragedy, and throughout real life, hubris has been the downfall of basically every tragic character. Is it only a matter of time where it becomes Putin's downfall as well?
Oh my goodness, I hope so. I think everyone listening and everyone in America and everyone in the world is hoping that that's true. I guess the question is, how quickly and how effectively that's going to end, and how much damage he causes on the way down. It makes me think of lifeguards are trained when they see a drowning person not to actually go too close, right? Approach them from behind. If they lunge, you got to kick them almost, because they can drag everyone down with them. And I think we're all worried about this hubris and this narcissism of Putin kind of bringing us all down with them, but hopefully not.
I want to broaden this out to talk about a couple of things on this side of the ocean, but I got a question coming in from our YouTube chat. We get feedback from our listeners all the time on YouTube. What is the difference between a sociopath and a narcissist?
Great question. So a narcissist is, as we mentioned, this kind of brittle self-esteem, right? You get threatened very easily. A sociopath or a psychopath is someone who is very callous towards the suffering of others and doesn't have a kind of intuitive moral sense. So they can be tied together. So you can imagine lots of psychopaths. If you threaten their self-concept, they'll lash out. Mm-hmm. But you could also imagine someone who, a narcissist who feels threatened and yet understands that maybe other people shouldn't be harmed. But in practice, I think they're often pretty correlated.
Dr. Kurt Gray is our guest. We're talking about getting inside of Vladimir Putin's head just a little bit, but I want to bring him back home. Where do we see the most examples of this level of behavior in America? Clearly, there's not going to be one-to-one comparisons, but if we could extrapolate a little bit of what we see on the home front from the same regard.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think there's, probably everyone who's listening has some example in the workplace, let's say, mm-hmm. of someone who feels like they're aggrieved, but they're actually quite powerful, and they lash out at others, right? So maybe you're working with the boss's son, and he feels like people don't treat him with respect, and yet he's got all the power, and right, he does mistreats all sorts of people. I think, no matter your political party, I think we could say that political elites often display this behavior, right? They're powerful, and yet they feel like they're the victim oftentimes because there's other politicians out to get them. People are slamming them on Twitter, and then they feel licensed to not act in ways that are in the self-interest of the American public. So I think, right, we can see the political elites showing this behavior as well. Obviously not to the same extent, thank goodness for democracy, as Putin, but you can still see a thread.
And you can see this on basically every level out there, from a political front all the way down to Tiger fans saying that ESPN commentators hate LSU. When you create a victimhood mentality, you can create motivation. This has proven to be a very effective political strategy here in America. I mean, think about the phrase "take our country back." Right there, you've got to say it's been taken from us, which makes us all a victim all at once. Is there a more effective political strategy?
I mean, it is one of the best strategies, so that our moral minds kind of divide the world into two. We see people as either villains or victims. And so this is why there's this thing called competitive victimhood, where people are competing. It's like a race to the bottom, a race to emphasize your trauma or your suffering, right? The injustices of the past. And if you can claim that victimhood, then you get to make the other side a villain. So I think it's probably one of the most effective strategies for shaping your own opinion and those of others.
We've got exactly 60 seconds left with Dr. Kurt Gray. Kurt, you're coming to us from North Carolina. Your Tar Heels going to take it home tonight?
I sure hope so. I'm going to finish this season happy after UNC beat Duke at Coach K's retirement party. That's enough for me.
I tell you what, you get win tonight and one more win this weekend. You might be squaring off one more time in the Final Four before it's all said and done. In the meanwhile, I appreciate the perspective. I appreciate a couple minutes. I mean, it's fascinating stuff. And there's one of the themes on this show is we're nowhere when it comes to mental health, and we're nowhere with understanding everything that goes on within our minds. So every time we could take a small step forward, I'm happy to do so. Thank you so much for that insight.
Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Always. 750 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Dr. Kurt Gray. The title of the column was "Understanding Putin's Victimhood Narrative." Was Kurt Gray and Will Blakey put it out, and it is just fascinating from start to finish. I took it the political angle within the column. Dr. Gray talked about school shooters having the same mentality as well. All right, we're due up for a break. We missed your money now. I don't care. We missed your money now. When we come back from this break, we're going to step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish next with the Outside In. I hit 51 to clear their spot. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. I could use the extra minute. Oh. North Carolina, UCLA tonight. All eyes on that game. There is no other game tonight. There are 3 other games tonight, but there is no other game tonight. Providence, Kansas, I don't care. Providence has been overlooked. I don't care. St. Peter's, Purdue. Honestly, do you really if Purdue wins, then everything is leveled and balanced and the ship has been righted. If St. Peter's wins, it's a good story, but it's not. Making the Sweet 16 is one thing. Winning tonight is an important. Winning on Sunday is. Because it doesn't matter right now. What matters is if they go to the Final Fours of 15. That's what matters. And then Iowa State, Miami. Womp, womp. That is going to be a monkey dookie fight at the zoo is what that's going to be. That is going to be you ever go to the zoo and just see monkeys flinging poo all over the place? That is going to be no. I got a better example. Here. That is going to be what Dr. Gray just said. A race to the bottom. Actually, I think Miami's going to roll over them. One of the themes of this show, theme wasn't the right word. Frequent topics were nowhere on mental health. You're right. Look, it's right. I'm not going to dispute my own comments, but Byron says, going after Russian oligarchs in Putin's case isn't paranoia. I think that's a realistic possibility that they get him out of the equation. I see an accident or heart attack in his future. Oh, yeah. No, totally. He's going to get Epstein very quickly. I got all these stacks over here from stuff we didn't do today. We are nowhere when it comes to mental health. I might have misspoken the last segment and said that's one of the themes. It's just one of the frequent topics on this show, and it's true. I really appreciate Dr. Gray's time. That was fantastic stuff. Hey, not nearly done with the show just yet. We got a whole hour to go after this. Jake is going to have This Day in History. We are going to talk with State Representative Stephanie Hilferty. Where's my rundown? Stephanie Hilferty at 8:15, Hunt Palmer at 8:40. LSU had their first spring practice yesterday. Hunt was there. We will have a full report at 8:40. Right now, though, every day at about this time, we step outside of the East Baton Rouge Parish for a segment we call The Outside In. Let's roll. Oh, we are starting off in West Baton Rouge Parish. A fiery crash involving a bus and multiple 18-wheelers shut down I-10 West for hours yesterday. This is a day after I-10 was shut down for hours the night before, or the morning before. The wreck was first reported around 11 a.m. in the eastbound lanes of the interstate just past Highway 415. Crash investigators said it appeared the bus was coming to a stop when a semi slammed into it. The bus was pushed into the back of another 18-wheeler before hitting a cable barrier in the median of the interstate. West Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office says the trucker who rear-ended the bus, identified as Ricky Hagar, was killed in the collision. Another few people were hurt in the collision as well. The interstate was closed for a good 6 hours before reopening. Down at St. Mary Parish, a 14-year-old is charged with terrorizing after allegedly making threats towards his high school on social media Thursday. Morgan City Police Department responded to Morgan City High School around 4:17 p.m. Thursday after a threat towards the school was posted online. Detectives determined that a 14-year-old male student was posting threats via social media. He was arrested later that day. The juvenile was booked into the Morgan City jail on a charge of terrorizing. If you watch the show on YouTube, you already heard me and Condon talk about this story. Tangipahoa Parish schools have adopted an interesting new policy. School officials said students who film fights on campus will now face the same punishment as those who throw the punches. The warning from Superintendent Melissa Martin Stilley, a.k.a. Dana White, he'll learn about that in a minute. The warning by the superintendent was shared by a school board member, says students involved in fights on campus will be placed on alternative school program for at least a semester. The notice goes on to say that any student who records a fight with their cell phone will be treated the same. So if you're like a member of the media club and you want to document what's happening so it can be properly reported to authorities later, you are guilty. According to the data provided by the same school board member, the Tangipahoa Parish school system has reported 930 fights so far in the 2021 to 2022 school year. It's got to be Superintendent Dana White. I mean, it is the UFC in Tangipahoa Parish. I'm not saying they're good fights. Closing out New Orleans, a deadly tornado that carved an 11-mile path of destruction through the Big Easy, or through New Orleans East and St. Bernard Parish earlier this week, is possibly the strongest one ever. National Weather Service said Thursday the twister reached maximum winds of up to 160 miles an hour, making it a very powerful EF3 tornado. Officials said the tornado touched down around 7:20 p.m. It lasted over 15 minutes. The previous record was about 5 years ago, in February of 2017. That is the outside in. We are coming up on news at the top of the hour, but I've got exactly enough time to ask you what you're doing for lunch today. Can I interest you in a burger? Can I interest you in swinging by Mooyah? Burgers, fries, and shakes. But Brian, it's a Friday. I can't have meat on Friday. I'm a Catholic. Yeah, so am I. Did you know we get a reprieve today? Yeah. If a feast day falls on a Friday, you're good to go. Today's the Annunciation. Maybe hit up, you know what? It would be unbelievably ironic to hit up a double Diablo on a Friday in Lent, wouldn't it? It's on the table. Or it's on the way to the table. Mooyah, burgers, fries, and shakes. They've got 2 locations. Bluebonnet at Highland, Segan, just north of Industrialplex. You're going to find a fantastic burger with fresh ingredients. You're going to get great service. You are going to, if you don't know yet, you need to learn. Sweet potato fries dipped in honey. Bluebonnet at Highland, Segan, just north of Industrialplex. It's Mooyah, burgers, fries, and shakes. Swing by for lunch today. All right, I've got to step away for a minute. I'll be right back. think that was going to make it. No, Hunt might, but I doubt it. .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Got a busy hour this hour. We're going to talk with Stephanie Hilferty in our next segment, get a legislative update. Stephanie is a state representative out of New Orleans, West End, or Lakeview. I guess it's the same thing. Get an update on what she's working on, maybe a few of the hotter topics within this legislative session. That's coming up in our next segment. Also going to talk to Hunt Palmer today. Hunt was at practice yesterday. Yesterday was the first spring practice under new coach Brian Kelly. We're going to unpack everything. And I mean everything. Up to and including who's keeping up with their journals, right? Because good football starts with good journaling. No, you know what? I sound so pessimistic when I sound like such a fuddy-dud when I say it like that. That's from Brian Kelly's comments earlier this week. Tell you what, let's push pause on all that for right now and go back in time. It's time for this day in history. Here's Jake.
Yes, sir! Happy Friday to all those tuning in. It is time for This Day in History, and guess where we're kicking things off?
1934, New Orleans?
Nope.
Oh.
One. I knew this day was upon us one day or the next. One. The origin of Dionysian incarnation of the world.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So congratulations, existence in this timeline.
Congratulations, existence.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, hey, let's celebrate. 1863, way far into the future. The first U.S. Army Medal of Honor awarded to 6 Army soldiers by U.S. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton in Washington. In 1882, the first demonstration of pancake making held at a department store in New York City.
That's a fantastic day.
Indeed it is, which is weird because...
I'm a big pancake guy.
We can have this debate another time.
It's not a debate. It's not. No. I celebrate both of them wonderfully, and waffles are better because you have the squares that collects the syrup. But no, you can love waffles and still love pancakes.
Of course. But I do find it interesting because I'm kind of spoiling ahead of the segment, but it's International Waffle Day.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
There isn't, but like the first demonstration of pancake making and then it's Waffle Day. Like, come on.
Oh, like waffles are stealing their news cycle?
Well, they're both stealing each other's thunder here.
Well, I'm sure the first pancake was poured before there was a waffle day.
Probably.
Because, I mean, you got to have pancake. The pancake came before the waffle.
I am going to look this up after the segment.
All right.
Because I need to know. 1937, it is revealed Quaker Oats pays Babe Ruth $25,000 per year for ads. 1958.
This day in 1934.
What happened?
New Orleans, Louisiana. Mildred Diedrichson,
okay,
a.k.a. Babe Zaharias, pitches again, this time for the New Orleans Pelicans. Did you know the New Orleans Pelicans were a baseball team?
I did not.
Yeah. So, Babe, she threw against a split squad of the Cleveland Indians, 2 scoreless innings, and lines out in her only plate appearance.
Wow.
It's not important in the overall grand scheme of things, but there weren't a whole lot of women pitching in 1934.
No, it's definitely...
And they definitely weren't in New Orleans.
That's awesome. 1958, Sugar Ray Robinson, his first boxing champ to win 5 times.
Yep.
1961, Elvis Presley performs live on the USS Arizona.
Cool.
1961, same day, same year. Third place game is one of the wildest contests in NCAA Tournament history.
They should go back to a third place game.
Get this. As St. Joseph's defeats Utah 127-120 in quadruple overtime.
Very nice.
Yeah. 1965, Martin Luther King Jr. leads 25,000 to the state capitol in Montgomery, Alabama.
Oh, the how long, not long speech.
Think so?
Yep.
1971, Boston Patriots become New England Patriots.
Yes, they do.
And 1 year later, in 1972, the 34th NCAA Men's Basketball Championship UCLA beats Florida 81-76. It is the 6th straight title for the Bruins. Future Hall of Fame center Bill Walton was tournament MOP.
I think the Bruins were undefeated that year.
They might have been.
Yeah.
6th straight title? Come on.
Yeah.
In 1982, Wayne Gretzky becomes the first NHL player to score 200 points in a single season.
Yep.
Undisputed GOAT, it's got to be. 2002, the TV reality show The Bachelor, hosted by Chris Harrison, debuts.
Skipped right
on
past
NBC
95.
Or ABC, excuse
You
me.
skipped right past 1995.
What happened?
Mike Tyson got out of prison today in 1995.
How did I not see
I
that?
don't know, man.
That should
Yeah.
that should have been in big, bold letters.
Yeah.
Well, in 2015, shout out to any women in their young 20s or teenage years. This one's going to hurt. 2015, British musician Zayn Malik announces he is leaving the band One Direction.
Okay, first of all, thank you for not saying he was going in a different direction.
No, they're in 2 directions.
Yeah,
Now they're
yeah.
in 5.
Well, yeah. Is one of them named Nail?
I don't.
My daughter wears a sweatshirt that says Nail, or maybe it's Nile.
I think it's Nile.
Nile.
Yeah.
They got their vowels inverted.
Yeah. You know how it
It's
is.
like when people call me Brain. It's because the vowels are inverted.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm typing up the post for you, which is on our website,
It's
Talk
been my
106.3,
nickname for a long time.
I accidentally type Mornings with Brain Haldane,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, I got to fix that.
Yeah, show was almost called that.
Really?
Well, so over on 104.5, Brain has been my nickname since my previous iteration over at a different station at
Yeah.
Jabo. And like, oh, you call your Brain because you're smart? No, it's because someone in I had a live remote, and the production order was taped to my door, and the person who put the production order just inverted the letters.
Huh.
Yeah.
Thought it was the glasses. Well, that's all. The
No, I'm actually
events.
Penny's dog from Inspector Gadget.
That's all the events. Let's get to the birthdays. I only have 3 to talk about.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, but
All right.
Elton John turns 75.
Yeah.
Sarah Jessica Parker is 57.
Ah, Carrie Bradshaw.
And Kyle Lowry turns 36. What do you got for me?
How about Southern University's own Avery Johnson?
There you go.
Yeah, former Spurs guard and Mavericks coach. Tom Glavine, Hall of Fame pitcher with the Atlanta Braves. I've got a baseball with his autograph on it. He was born on this day in 1966. Hall of Fame WNBA forward Cheryl Swoops, born on this day in 1971. And, oops, I got the wrong guy here. Hang on.
Come on now.
No, hang on.
You're killing me, Smalls.
No, I know. I'm going to have one in a minute. Former LSU Tiger Al Woods was born today. Danica Patrick was born today as well.
Very nice. Happy birthday to all those mentioned. I don't have any deaths to report. Do you got anything before I get to the holidays?
No, but I'm going to end up going back to another birthday as soon as I have it pulled up.
Sounds good. Well, it is International Waffle Day, like I mentioned before, and the last holiday I have to mention, it is National Medal of Honor Day. What you got for me, Brian?
No, I don't.
All right. Well,
don't.
that is this day in history.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back from said break, State Representative Stephanie Hilferty joins us next. Dang it, Bobby. I knew it. Damn it. I got,
Okay.
man.
I looked this up because I was so interested during the segment. The pancakes and waffles, which one's older?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Hang on.
What?
Hello. I'm good. How are you? This is my cell phone. I was about to have my producer call you from the hotline. Yep, all good. He'll call you right back.
Well, then I'll get this done really quick.
Yeah.
Pancakes are way older than waffles. They've been around in some form since at least the 1430s, based on the first written record of the word pancake. Probably existed long before in some form. The first waffle iron was only patented in 1869. So, relatively speaking,
There
it's
you
the
go.
new kid on the block. All right, give me that number.
.817 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Jake, I told you I had one more, and I wasn't 100% sure when I looked at the name.
What you got?
Scott Sanders' birthday today. Scott Sanders, former Major League pitcher, father of Cam Sanders, who pitched at LSU.
Huh.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to him.
There you go. All right. Time to check in on the legislative session. Time for us to be joined by State Representative Stephanie Hilferty. Stephanie, good morning. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Brian.
Always love having you on here. It's always a good segment, and we got a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot going on this session. I've got a few things I want to ask you about, but I've got to start by just opening the floor. What's garnered your attention the most so far?
Well, we're still early in the session. This is we're about 2 weeks in, so this is the time when a lot of the bills with less money or that are just kind of more routine bills go through. So that's really been a lot of what you've been seeing if you're watching on the floor getting voted on, or some of those instruments. I just had a bill go through. It's through the House. It's headed to the Senate. It actually deals with carbon monoxide detectors in homes and having those installed. As you know, right now on new construction, that's part of the updated building code is to have those. This is something we saw, Brian, especially in southern Louisiana after Hurricane Ida, with people running generators continuously, and that carbon monoxide gas potentially coming into homes. We had some, injuries and tragically some fatalities from that. So I've been working with Chief Browning to bring that legislation.
Yeah, and this is one that pops up every single storm, and no matter how many reminders there are, how many public service announcements there are, we see more fatalities as a result of carbon monoxide poisoning after the storm than we do the storm itself.
I'll say it this way. I think the public awareness piece of this is as important as the legislation potentially. Mm-hmm. Because right now, and when you're doing your hurricane prep, when things are not stressful, this is a great time to go out and buy this potentially life-saving piece of equipment. It's inexpensive. It can be plugged into a wall. If you have a whole home generator and you don't have one of these, please go out and look at buying this. Even if you just have gas service in your home, I don't have a whole home generator. I don't have a generator, but we do have gas service to our home. Get this carbon monoxide detector. What this will do is for any home that is being sold or leased, it will require a carbon monoxide detector to be installed. In addition, it will require that when a whole home generator is installed, that carbon monoxide detector is installed. Again, we're not talking about a lot of money. It's a simple piece of equipment, maybe $20, that you can buy at a home improvement store very easily.
Absolutely. State Representative Stephanie Hilferty is our guest. Actually, Stephanie, before we get into some of the bigger topics of this legislative session, I've got to ask you about one particular bill that you filed, because there's a rule on this show. It is the shark-alligator rule. If there is a story about a shark or an alligator out there, I will report on it. You have a proposal that wants to prohibit the feeding of wild alligators. I've actually got a two-part question about this. Number one, what's the genesis of this?
I should have seen this coming.
Yep.
So I represent most of my district, I should say, runs along Lake Pontchartrain. So while it would seem odd that a suburban urban legislator is bringing this legislation, it actually came about months ago. I was approached by a constituent. We have several great restaurants. If you're in the area, check them out along the lakefront. And there had been some people feeding the alligators, I don't know, chicken nuggets, stuff off of the shore.
Mm-hmm.
So the alligators became habituated to coming up and, almost like, when you're feeding bread to the ducks at the park or something, but it's an alligator, and they become habituated to coming closer to the shore to get that food source. So this is looking to say that you cannot feed alligators, and there are some exceptions built in for permitted hunting, et cetera. Just to, obviously alligators can be a dangerous animal, and we don't need them becoming habituated to humans and wanting to come up and ask for food. So that's the genesis of it.
Wait, I thought you were like Lakeview and Bucktown. Like, is this a thing in?
We did. We don't have many, but we do have alligators in Lake Pontchartrain. In fact, in Lakeview, this is probably about a year and a half ago, there was an alligator that was found walking through Lakeview that Department of Wildlife and Fisheries had to come and pick up.
Okay. There's this.
I know.
Yeah, like if you're leaving New Orleans and you take like airline all the way through Norco and Destrehan, that little canal along the side, you can't drive past that without seeing at least 3 or 4 of them. But like Bucktown, that's different.
Well, look, I'll say this. Bucktown was a traditional shrimping and fishing community. And I think, now maybe looked at more as, a suburban area. But, look, I remember as a kid driving over the bridge, 17th Street Canal Bridge. I grew up right outside of Bucktown, and, there was a whole fleet of shrimping boats there. And it's just, obviously that's changed with the pump moving there, the pump station moving there post-Katrina. But no, it's, I know, it seems odd coming from this part of the state potentially.
Worst case scenario, they end up on the menu at Deanie's.
Right. Right.
There's the backside to the story, though, and that is the work that was done to bring back the alligator population. We're seeing it on a very regular basis that the work that was done to bring them back has obviously worked. They've shown ridiculous returns in that regard, and the alligator now thriving and living on chicken nuggets in Bucktown, apparently. Stephanie Hilferty is our guest, and Lakeview, yes. Stephanie Hilferty is our guest. Okay, every state legislator I've had on thus far, and until we know where the money's going specifically, I'm going to ask this exact same question. Governor John Bel Edwards wants to set aside $500 million for a new Mississippi River Bridge in Baton Rouge. Where do you stand on this measure?
Sure. I've gotten stuck on the bridge, so I, without a doubt, understand the need for the bridge. It was interesting to see that conversation progress really over the past couple of weeks, which I'm sure many of your listeners have been following. The initial $500 million request that John Bel put into the budget, or Governor Edwards put into the budget, and then, kind of some of the pushback. And I understand, I certainly see the need for maybe some progression in location, environmental impacts, those studies to be done. However, and I understand this for the people in your listening area, I've gotten stuck and anytime I'm coming back from Lafayette, I'm checking my map to see if I should go 90 or if I can go through Baton Rouge. Because it is such a congestion point, I absolutely understand the need for a new bridge. So I think this is a conversation that is progressing. I don't think this is I don't personally see this being a zero-sum game for either side. I mean, there's obviously a need there. It is a pinch point running through a major commercial artery of our state, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the consensus is the consensus has kind of been that if you're from Baton Rouge, you're all in. If you're from the surrounding areas, it's more there's some contingencies attached to signing off on on setting aside $500 million for it?
Well, I think it's understanding the dynamics of the project a bit more, and I think there's certainly that aspect of it. But of course, I mean, what that bridge creates. I've gotten stuck on it where you're just sitting on it and you're feeling all the cars move around you. Mm-hmm. So again, it's a major commercial artery. We need that to be a free flowing point through the state. It can't keep getting congested like that. So I think this is a conversation that is still progressing. So that's my read on it.
That is hot topic number 1 for this session. Hot topic number 2, I've got to ask about a veto override on the redistricting congressional map redistricting. Where are you at on that one?
I did not. So it's a little strange. If you turn in your ballot, you're saying there is not going to be a veto override. If you do not turn your ballot in, you're saying you want the veto override. So it's a little confusing. I did not turn my ballot in. I think the ballots are due today. I expect that we will have a veto override session, which would commence sometime middle part of next week.
Now, the way I understand it is you push pause on the rest of the session, you knock out the veto override, and you get back to the regular session. Do you see this being an impediment to getting the business at hand done?
I certainly hope that we can move. I mean, look, there are a lot of bills. I heard you talking to Rep. Davis yesterday. I mean, we have a tremendous amount of bills moving through the pipeline. So I don't think this will be a huge impediment. It's something that'll be done within the regular session. I say that within the regular session, within the time frame of it, but you're correct. It's an adjournment and commencement of the veto session and then getting back into the regular session. So I'm hopeful that we can move through it.
State Representative Stephanie Hilferty is our guest. Stephanie, what else is on your radar for this session?
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I think one of the other bills I have, which is House Bill 701, it amends the parish executive order statute, revised statute. And it's actually, the parish executive order statute does not have the same 30-day renewal time frame that the gubernatorial one does. So right now, if a parish executive declares a state of emergency, it continues in perpetuity until they declare it over. So what this would do is give it a 90-day initial declaration ability. So, in the case of a hurricane or something like that, where a lot is upended for that parish office, gives them the 90 days, and then thereafter, with council approval, it is 30-day renewal increments.
That's interesting.
So I think that's something. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that's interesting because on a parish by parish basis, it seems it's different than on a state by state on the statewide basis. Because when it comes to the emergency order about the pandemic, the governor has had to re-up basically every month.
Exactly, and that doesn't occur on the parish side. So for whatever reason, when these statutes were initially drafted, it did not have the same 30-day renewal requirements as the governor's executive order statute. This is really, it's giving that initial 90 days. Again, typically these emergency declarations are used for natural disasters. I think that's the use we see them for most in our state. So it gives that 90 days, and then thereafter it's on a 30-day cycle, similar to the governor's orders.
So, but along with that, if it normally comes along with a natural disaster, you're talking about people usually needing to file for federal help or federal aid in some sort of way, and you've got to be under that emergency declaration to be eligible for it. Would the hope be that this would get people, it would expedite the filing process?
No, I think in that instance, there's typically unanimous agreement in the fact that we need that declaration. In natural disasters, people are working through all sorts of, whether it's insurance or working with the federal government through FEMA for help. I'm thinking, we've been under a COVID emergency declaration. It was just recently ceased in Orleans Parish. Many people in my district were looking to understand why we were still under the order, what were the terms of the order. and getting that periodic feedback with council oversight.
She is State Representative Stephanie Hilferty. We got to get you on towards the end of the session for more of a recap. In the meanwhile, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Always. And if nothing else, stop feeding chicken nuggets to alligators. All right, quick break for news. We'll talk LSU football next. So while you were cooling off across the hall, I had to invoke the shark alligator rule. Yeah. And Stephanie said, yep, should have known. She's got a bill in front of the state legislature that wants to prohibit the feeding of wild alligators because apparently people in Lakeview are feeding chicken nuggets to alligators.
As you do. As you do.
I mean, she said, if you feed the ducks, it's no problem. This is the last time somebody was attacked and killed by a duck. Duck, duck, gator.
Only if they're the size of a horse.
Exactly. You would not want to fight a horse-sized duck.
You wouldn't, but you also wouldn't want to fight 50 duck-sized horses.
Well,
I'd want to fight them less.
Bees what it bees, man. All right. Is the topic here that you shouldn't feed wild alligators, or is the topic here that they don't need fried food? But if you feed fried food to a wild alligator and then you cook and serve that wild alligator, can something be fried and blackened at the same time? I mean, if it's eating fried food, you already get fried food. Hey, Chelsea! Yes. LSU spring practice. Jesus Christ, this is so stupid. This is another stupid bill. This is more legislative busy work. Why not make that apply to every homicide? Oh, but you're not hearing it on YouTube. So the bill proposal is if someone kills a parent in a vehicular homicide, you have to pay restitution to the child because that child's source of income is now gone when the parent's dead. Why would that only apply to vehicular homicide?
Someone on Twitter I randomly saw posted a picture of their Maps app. They said, I swear, every time I open the Maps app in Baton Rouge, it's like nobody passed the driver's test because there were literally accidents on every single street, every major street.
Basically.
Love that. Friday traffic.
The sad thing is the number of times all the traffic is there without the accidents. By the way, only minor delays right now on the interstate. That's awesome. I just texted you Hunt's number. If he's still having his breakfast, like we can punt. I would assume if he was, he wouldn't have answered the phone. Okay. .837 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Checking that forecast real quick before we get to Hunt Palmer for a recap of the first spring practice under the Brian Kelly era. We are looking at sunny skies today, tomorrow, and on in through the weekend. In fact, highs are going to continue to trend upward. High of 75 today, 80 tomorrow, 85 on Sunday and Monday, 86 on Tuesday. We do have a chance of rain back in the forecast next Wednesday. Overnight lows are going to be relatively cool, though. We're in the 40s tonight and tomorrow night, 50s on Sunday night. Right now we're at 54 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. All right, joining us now, the co-host of Hunt and Hill on 104.5 ESPN. He is Hunt Palmer. Hunt, welcome back, sir. How are you, man?
How could I be any better? It's a beautiful, beautiful spring morning in the capital city.
You know what? Can I just go ahead and ruin the segment from the start? You could be better if the Tigers weren't facing a 6'7" left-hander who strikes out 44 for walking every two.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. Probably halfway through the show today. We'll start with some happier things.
He's like the big unit 2.0.
Yeah, he's good. I don't know how Kevin O'Sullivan continues to get huge left-handed guys. It's so really hard to go play college baseball, but he finds them somewhere and gets them to Gainesville with pretty good regularity, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, the Brian era is underway. First things first, did everybody properly document in their journals what they did before practice?
They got to get 7 days of participation for their wellness report. Yeah, look, I can't vouch for that. I was only out there for 20 minutes watching them run around in helmets. So hopefully everyone is participating. Apparently that's very important. And look, if he thinks it's important and he wins games at an 80% clip here, I think that'll be just fine.
No, absolutely. And believe it or not, there is method to the madness. I'm going to make fun of it because, dear diary, I was bad. I had a Reese's today. But, there's comedy to be had, but there's something about being habitual about every aspect of life. And I think that's the bigger picture here is, trusting the process or having the process. And how, Nick Saban always says that you win games Monday through Thursday just as much as you do on Saturday.
Yeah, it's very obvious in watching him in press conferences, the things that he says, watching him to practice yesterday, and talking about Brian Kelly, that he runs this thing like a Fortune 500 company. He's just very much a CEO. He's very professional. He's very buttoned up. He's very thoughtful. He's very detail-oriented. And it's the way that he's done things his entire career, and it's the way he's won a lot of games. So it's a little bit of a different energy out there. I watched him at practice a good bit yesterday, and he didn't ever raise his voice. Some of the times he was talking to the student managers over there who were holding footballs. Like he's letting his coaches coach, and he's taking some notes, and was not overly involved in the drills yesterday. He runs this thing from the top. He puts good people around him and lets them go to work.
One of my favorite things of the week was when he said during his press conference that, normally you'd have a split spring. Well, you go a little bit, you have spring break, you go a little bit, and you can get actually more workouts out of it that way. But he said we didn't start before spring break because we weren't ready to even practice. That level of attention to detail, I think, is going to short term might blow up, but long term will pay off.
Yeah, I think when he got here and looked around, he realized, whoa, this is LSU, but it doesn't look like LSU right now. And that's just the case. We watched the Texas Bowl. They had 35 guys on scholarship and a wide receiver running around playing quarterback. It it was really bad from a numbers perspective, from a discipline perspective. You can imagine. I mean, they essentially had a substitute teacher in there for the last 3 months. Yeah, Ogeron was there, and their assistant coaches were there, but a bunch of the guys knew they weren't coming back. A bunch of the coaches aren't going to be there. It's not like I'm going to be playing for them next year. Class attendance was poor, grades were poor, conditioning was poor, the numbers were poor. It was just it's not in good shape, and that's got to change. And it starts the day he stepped off that podium. So he's got a lot of work in front of him. He knows that, but I think they're off to a pretty good start in terms of getting players into the transfer portal and changing the culture a little bit. That's an overused cliche, but I think it applies here because of how loose things were over the last few months, and it starts in the spring trying to get it fixed.
Okay, let's get into it. What did you see yesterday?
Look, it's not a ton. They're out there in helmets, running through cones, the defensive backs, the quarterbacks are throwing a little bit. Saw Jaden Daniels, obviously the new transfer quarterback from Arizona State. He is tall, he is thin, and he's got a quick release and a good arm. Miles Brennan was out there. He looks very healthy. I mean, he's got to be 35 pounds heavier than he was when he stepped on campus. Now, he was a string bean when he stepped on campus, but he's filled out and looks the part. It's a healthy, solid quarterback room when you add in Garret Nussmeier, who's changed numbers, and that drove me nuts yesterday. And then Walker Howard, the freshman quarterback, who is clearly running fourth right now, and that's perfectly fine with him. If you listen to us, you know that they're okay with the red shirt this year, not seeing a ton of time with a lot of veterans in front of them. But it's a healthy, deep quarterback room. That could change after spring if somebody looks up and says, hey, I'm out of here. But right now, that was kind of where I spent most of my time, and that was good.
Yeah, quarterbacks are going to garner a lot of attention as there's a legitimate battle for this top spot. And it feels like it's a 1-2 between Daniels and Brennan and Daniels, wherever your take might be there. But is that going to play out in spring, or is that something that's going to take a lot longer than just spring to fully decide?
Well, if they do make a decision in the spring, I don't think they'll make that public to anyone, including the quarterbacks. The game you've got to play in college football now is keep as many people happy as you can so they don't leave. Now, we'll see if that works, but I think they will split the reps evenly. I don't think that they will favor one or the other in the 3 weeks that they have spring football, and they'll try to keep everybody in camp as they move to the fall. Now, there was a day 2 years ago in the fall where LSU had 4 quarterbacks, and then the next day they showed up at practice and they had 2. Justin McMillan was out of it. I mean, it's just that's the way that it goes. Lowell Narcisse as well bailed in one day. So that's the state of college athletics right now. I do think that they will go into fall camp neck and neck is my guess, but at this point, anything could happen.
What other positions were you able to give a little notice to yesterday?
Look at the running backs. Frank Wilson's back, and it is a very, very deep and talented room. There's not a Leonard Fournette in that room right now, but John Emery is back after missing last year due to academics, and he looks healthy and strong. The 2 freshman running backs from last year, Armani Goodwin and Corey Kiner, are back. They look good, so that was encouraging to see. Trey Bradford, who went to LSU, transferred out, came back, is there and looks healthy and strong. So Frank Wilson's got a deep group, and that's something that he's had in his time at LSU. If you remember, back in the 2007 days, it was Jacob Hester and Keelan Williams and Charles Scott and Trenton Holiday, and then moved to the other championship team in 11, and it was Kenny Hilliard and Alfred Blue and Michael Ford. It doesn't always have to be one guy that runs for 1,400 yards here. They can have multiple guys that do different things, and that's a good thing to have. And last year the running back depth got hit pretty hard, and they were down to 1 at some point. Right now it looks like they're 4 or 5 deep and strong. What about out wide at receiver? They got a lot of talent. Obviously, Keyshawn Butte is the best in the country, but he's not out there. He's in a walking boot. So it's a bunch of other guys. Jack Besh, who was playing a lot of tight end last year, is actually working with the wide receivers, which is his natural spot. That was good to see. And the guys who came in with him are very, very talented. Brian Thomas, Chris Hilton. It's nice to have Jeray Jenkins back for his 413th year at LSU. He was a productive player for him last year. They got a lot of guys out there at wide receiver. So even though you lose Deion Smith into the transfer portal and Keyshawn's not out there, there's still a lot of talent that can run out there at wide receivers. Skill positions on offense are not a problem. It's the big dudes up front you got to worry about. It occurred to me on Toth Sunday why we will always have great wide receivers in South Louisiana, because when you've got dudes running routes up St. Charles as 8-year-olds, like
you know you've got game before you step on a high school field. You learned it before a Mardi Gras parade hit. It's inherent with us, and I love it. But having the raw talent and the measurables is one thing. How do we recreate the Jefferson and Chase results?
Ooh, Brian, replicating those results to Pro Bowl guys who are first-round picks and are going to be rich dudes is difficult. That starts with having a pretty good quarterback pulling the trigger, which I believe that was the case back in 19. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's going to be tough to replicate, but the talent level is very, very good. They got big, they got fast, they got strong. It's just a matter of calling the plays and getting the ball out. And last year they had trouble blocking and running the football, which hurt them, and they had up and down quarterback play at times. So they got plenty of talent to catch the football and make huge plays in the passing game. Jefferson and Chase level, I wouldn't quite go there.
I mean, yeah, obviously we're never going to get all the way back there, but if there's any, lightning in a bottle that you can recreate, then obviously we want to do that. Let's move over to the defenses. Wait, one more spot. Tight end, what are we looking at?
Like two of them. It's
you know who one of them better be.
Cole Taylor and Jack Mashburn, your boy. I think it's just a position that's very low on numbers. I think there's a chance that Brian Thomas, who is 6'4", 210 pounds, could play a little bit of that if they needed to. They're going to look into the transfer portal. They signed one tight end, Taylor, who is not going to be here until the fall, and I don't know if he's quite ready to play just yet. But if they can go to the transfer portal and find just a 6'5", 240-pound body that can help them with some blocking and maybe catch a ball here or there, that's something they'll definitely be interested in after spring ball's over. But right now, they don't really have it.
Okay, yeah, I know. It's like I love my guy. I'll always be one of St. Paul's Wolves, but yeah, he can block. On the defensive side of the football, what are we looking at? Who's strong?
Yeah, I didn't spend as much time over there, but I did right at the beginning of practice. They've changed where we can walk as media, and to go watch the other side of the ball, you have to walk like 400 yards around the entirety of the field instead of like 30 across it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see the defensive line right out of the chute, and it's big and physical. Mason Smith is a physical specimen. Ali Gay is back at the edge rusher. He's a physical specimen. B.J. Ojolari is excellent. Jaqueline Roy, Jacoby and Guillory. They got a lot of guys who are really physical at the point of attack on the defensive line. I think that's where you got to start on defense, and they've got a good base there on the front, and that's the majority of my defensive time I spent there. It looks really good. They're not in pads yet, so they're doing a lot of firing off the ball, hitting sleds and whatnot, but it's a good-looking group, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I say defensively, because until it's full contact, until they're actually hitting, tackling, wrapping up, all you can do is look at the freak shows of physical specimens that they are. What's coming up on Hunting Hill today?
Excited for Hunting Hill today. We're going to talk a little bit about LSU's baseball series with Florida. We are going to talk to Shea Dixon about practice and what he saw. Also going to talk Sweet 16, which was really entertaining last night, and they got 4 more good ones tonight. So we'll be locked in 12-2.
I'm all in on UNC tonight. Am I going to lose my money?
I can't beat Vegas, Brain. They don't build those casinos because I know how to trick them. So you fire away if you feel good about it.
Hunting Hill, you'll hear him at noon today. Hunt, I always appreciate it, man.
Have a good weekend, Brian. Thanks.
You too. Later on. All right, we got to take a break for your money now. When we come back, speaking of am I going to lose my money? Am I going to lose my money? DraftKings, open at Hollywood Casino. We're talking about it next. Jack Mashburn can catch and run, too. But there's got to be more than one of them. Tight end is always going to be more than one deep. And I don't know that Cole Taylor's tough. All right, let's get some YouTube comments in here. I hadn't been in YouTube in a good minute. Troy says, I recommend a recent Netflix dramatic series, Occupied, for an interesting take on current events. A political thriller that involves the EU, Russia, and control of energy resources. That is interesting. Occupied, I'll check it out. Super Beef Finder. Garret Graves, did you hear him? Let the folks who demonized oil and gas save face so we can move on. He is right. Don't spend time getting even. Just move on and get things done. Dude, I don't even know if you're still watching, but that is a hell of a take. That is pragmatic, it is smart, and it freaking gets us somewhere. The tit-for-tat bullshit we deal with on a regular basis gets us where we are today and not where we need to be. Awesome take. Anna Payne says, I remember Bugs calling you, Brain. So, yeah, Bugs was over there at J-Bo when I was at J-Bo. He was there when Libby put the production order on the wall on my door and said, where was I that day? Jerry Lane was where the remote was at for FMF. And it was written real big across the top, Brain. In fact, I think it was Moscona was the first one to notice it. So, yeah, Libby inadvertently invented it, or maybe she did it on purpose. She'll never tell. And then Moscona picked it up and ran with it. And then from there, once you get a nickname, you know you can't lose a nickname. Just ask Glenn Davis. Speaking of Glenn, you know what? I'm going to mention Glenn Davis in the last segment. Troy says, did Representative Hilferty say her bill requires parish council approval to extend an emergency order beyond 90 days? Sounds like a mayor destroyer rollback. Holy shit, that's astute. I didn't... Oh. Thanks, Troy. I get to go into the weekend pissed at myself now. How did I miss that? I'm too busy making alligator jokes. How did I miss that? God damn. Good job, Troy. Well, hey, the good news is I have a reason to drink myself stupid tonight. Seriously. You know what? Before I bring it back up again, let me dig into it to make sure that's actually what she said and actually what her bill does. Because if it's just a matter of the parish president or a mayor extending an order out without the parish's approval, just the mayor has to re-up it or the parish president has to re-up it. If that's the case, then that wouldn't apply. But damn, that was a good follow-up question. I suck at life. So I'm going on my way in after the show. Feeling good. Feeling like I'm down at least 1.5 pounds.
Good.
Last week, I would have been down 2.5 pounds, but I drank 4 glasses of water before making my way over there.
That water weight.
Water weight. And I was
it's not
cool.
just an excuse.
I'll just pee it out. That's not how it works. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio.
No, it's not. It's also not instantaneous.
No, I was still down 1.2. But imagine what that could have been. Like, what is a pint? 16 ounces is a pint? How much is a pint? 12?
Maybe 12.
Ounces in a pint. All I know is, 16. That's what I thought.
Okay.
All right. How much does 16 ounces of water weigh? 1 pound. No. So I drink 4 pounds of water?
Maybe. Weight fluctuates on like a 5.
I think they're translating that ounces.
No.
No. A gallon's 8.3 pounds. That might be right. Well, then.
One more segment. Let's ride it home.
Okay. 8:56, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. One segment to go before we get out of here. Before I run out of time, let me thank everybody who's hopped on the show today. Of course, Haggai Davison for a cup of Tech Gumbo earlier today, talking about the Delete Act and holding tech companies liable for social media addiction. So stupid. Thanks to Congressman Garret Graves for hopping on for an impromptu DC Current. Fantastic segment with the... You know what? Yes, fantastic segment with the Congressman today. If you missed it, it's available on demand at talk1073.com or via YouTube. Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Subscribe while you're there. Just talking LNG, and like I love stories where Louisiana has a chance to be on a world stage. I don't love that it stems from a war, but what's going on with Russia and Ukraine is kind of peeling back the layers of the onion. Well, not the layers of the onion, because it's all layers. Peeling back the curtain on how much LNG, liquefied natural gas, out of Louisiana is a win-win, win-win, win-win-win. It's a win on every front possible, and we could just be sending it from Louisiana straight over to Europe. We could solve their problems, solve all problems, solve everybody's problems, all with one fell swoop. The conversation with the congressman was just awesome today. Kurt Gray, Dr. Kurt Gray, he's a psychologist over at the University of North Carolina, unpacking what's inside Putin's mind. Fun segment there. I love talking about mental health whenever we can. It's not unexplored, but it's baby steps to get there. Also, State Representative Stephanie Hilferty joined us, and of course, Hunt Palmer in our last segment. Hey, 10 years ago today. 10 years ago? No. That's not right. 16 years ago today. You had a problem with my 10 looking like a 9? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Condon's 16 looks like a 10. 16 years ago today, LSU beat Texas 70-60 in overtime to advance to the Final Four. Big baby Glenn Davis, because you can't shake a nickname, Glenn Davis and Tyrus Thomas combined for 47 points and 21 boards. Shout out to the Tigers. All right. 4 games on tap in the tournament tonight. Coming to you from Timothy Boone over at The Advocate, a temporary DraftKings sportsbook is now open at Hollywood Casino Baton Rouge. The plans are to have the permanent one in place by 2023. That sounds like a remarkably long time, but here's the thing. Hollywood Casino is grabbing full ownership of their revamp. They're doing it big. Y'all, they're moving off the riverboat on the land. DraftKings, so I'm on my DraftKings app daily. Always on my DraftKings app. Hollywood broke ground on a $60 million expansion over the summer, putting it on track to be the first Baton Rouge riverboat casino to come off the water. The work, which is set to be completed in the second half of the year, will add 38,000 square feet to the casino atrium. It's going to add the full-on sports book. Shaq is bringing a chicken place to town. I think they call it Big Chicken. Oh, it's going to be awesome, y'all. As so much talk has been had, and we got to get somebody on to talk about this, but as so much talk has been had about Louisiana, or I should say Baton Rouge, are 3 casinos viable in Baton Rouge? As long as they keep investing in themselves, they will be. All right, that's going to do it for us. I got to get out of here. Fox News Rundown is next, followed by Kilmeade, Ramsey, Jay Ducote drives you home. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. All right, YouTube, I got to split. Peace. Have a great weekend.